couple of hours to the well to watch a little SEC women's college basketball. And obviously, while I was there, went upstairs, chatted it up with the bunnies, and Benetti was there. And it was me, him, and one of the guys from the sales staff, and we're all sports guys, right? So we're all talking a little college basketball because last night was an absolutely electrifying night of college basketball. Kind of a boring slate tonight, but real good night last night. So we were talking college shooty hoops. We were talking about the conference tournaments getting started next week. We were talking about the schedule last night. Alabama and Florida, an absolute burner of a contest. Florida with the big win over the Crimson Tide. They've dropped 2 in a row now. Nate Oates' squad has. We're going to talk college basketball later in the show after again, electric night last night.
If you are not a fan of a school, are you not a fan of a school because just the football team and their basketball team, but it's okay to say their name without disdain for the rest of their sports?
I wouldn't know because I don't ever do that.
Okay, well, I was just curious.
I would never do that.
I'm not. Nothing came to mind when you were talking.
Yeah, no, shouldn't have, because that's not me.
Oh, I can't. I know they're in town.
You and I are impartial and love everyone equally.
Oh no, I'm not. I can't stand Florida because of Mark Ryan. I'm going to say that it's because of one of Mark Ryan's teams, which was Florida.
Allegedly.
Took him 10 years to graduate.
So,
well, he said it, not me.
So we were talking.
But I thought you didn't like Florida, so and I was going to equate it to him.
I know you are, and I'm not doing that.
Okay, all right. I apologize for instigating. I can't put it away, but I will try to pat it down.
So we were talking college shooty hoops yesterday at the well. Me, Justin, and Benner, and we got to talking about the ACC this year, right? Because it's not good on the men's side for the ACC. It is not a good conference. It's Clemson. It's Duke. There's a couple of okay teams. North Carolina is a bubble team, and that's pretty much the list. Virginia's not great, maybe with a dominant performance to wrap up the regular season and in the tournament. Maybe they could steal bid 68, something like that. Not a good year in the ACC. And Benner had asked me about the Clemson-Florida State settlement that we learned about on Tuesday and talked about at length yesterday on the show, which we'll get into because I may shock you, have another take about that coming up today. And we were pointing out that, or I was pointing out that, the ACC, I think, may be utilizing this strategy to adopt a new one. The settlement, as we talked about, the settlement basically clears a path for Florida State, Clemson, probably Miami, to do what they want to do and get invited to the Super Leagues, the SEC and the Big Ten, in 2030-31, which gives the Atlantic Coast Conference effectively 5 years in its current setup to do whatever they got to do to figure out how the hell they're going to survive when this is all said and done. Because those schools are gone. Florida State and Clemson for sure. Miami more than likely. And then the question is, who else abandons ship, assuming they get invitations elsewhere, the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, or whatever. And I said, fellas, I think there's a strategy here that might, capital M, might be in play. And that strategy might be, although it's not working out for them right now, to utilize that 5 years to try to become a basketball super conference. Look, we're never going to keep up with the SEC and the Big Ten in football. We all know that, right? The ACC just cannot, especially when, underlined, italicized, Florida State and Clemson leave, can't keep up with the SEC, the Big Ten in football. But perhaps, perchance, maybe, you could build a dominant basketball conference. There are enough really good basketball schools out there that are not affiliated with the power conferences that if the SEC was to absorb a bunch of them, especially if they were able to keep Duke and North Carolina in the fold. Again, not a guarantee. But if they're able to keep those two teams in the fold And there's enough big-time college basketball teams out there that are not affiliated with the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference. If they could stack a bunch of those, perhaps the ACC could become the dominant basketball conference in America. And annually, when March Madness rolls around, they go and they pop 14, 16, 18 teams into the tournament. Then all that money stacks up out of the tournament. No, it's not football money, but it's still good money. They stack up all that money. They send all of that money to the schools, and now it's an attractive conference. Is that going to happen? Probably not, but we're going to talk about it later. The point of all of this, though, was that as I was going through this conversation, there's a point where I pointed out that the ACC was down, and Benetti looks me in the face and goes, buddy, that's an understatement. And as soon as the Y in buddy came out of the lip, I was like, Benner, you're a legend on the show, and it's not just because of your incredible interviews that you come in here on every Wednesday at 8:40 and talk Buddies hockey with me. It's because you have jammed the word buddy into the Rob Brown Show lexicon. It is something that for some reason greatly perturbs the executive producer and BMOC tribal chief of the fan upstate, Lonzo. And I have spent a week and a half trying to figure out where the hell I picked up buddy from, and it turns out it's the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rapids, Mark Benetti.
Also, more proof that I'm only co-host when you're here, but when you talk to other people, I'm lowly executive.
I called
producer.
you the tribal chief.
Yeah,
of the fan upstate.
You know, I could point that way as a tribal chief. You see where I'm pointing?
The window.
Yeah, that's what I'm pointing at. Anyway, you get it. It might take you a second, but you get it. It bothers me not because of the word, but because of the tone and how demeaning it was when you said it the very first time. And because of that, I will use it forever until, of course, someone tells me I have to get rid of it.
Buddy. So, I've had a conversation.
It will take an act of God. or you talking to Chris and have him scrub my whole thing.
That's it. I've had this conversation in years gone by. Outside of the radio station, where I am nothing but a consummate professional at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to use some adult-colored language away from the radio. I tend to use some flavorful language away from the radio. And I've had the conversation before that I thoroughly believe that the F word is the most dynamic word of the English language. No, it just is. This isn't a debate. I'm telling you for a fact. You can use it as a noun, you little bleep. You can use it as a verb. I'm bleeping going to, or I bleeping
So I don't understand why this word came up unless you're thinking of this word towards me
no,
right now.
Not at all. Not at all. No, don't do the thing where you think that if somebody says something, it's obviously an attack on you. It's not.
Okay,
I'm setting
we're
up
in a conversation where we're going back and forth, and there is attacking happening.
No, there's not. I'm setting up an explanation for why you're wrong about the word buddy.
Buddy?
Here's why.
Buddy?
The F word is the most dynamic word in the English language. You can use it as a noun, a pronoun, an adjective, an adverb, a verb. You can use it in any capacity. It's a filler word. It's a primary word. You can use it in any way, shape, or form, which means that it can be used positively. I am so bleeping pumped right now.
I don't know what to say. Let me use a word that made me look cool when I was 12.
Still makes me look cool now.
You think so?
Yes, I do. I can use it as an exclamation of joy and happiness, wonderment. That's bleeping awesome.
Show your joy right now.
No, because again, that's going to get me fined $35K. You want to step out in the hallway, and I'll say it.
Ooh.
All right?
Rob just asked me to step out in the hallway.
I realize how that came across, all right? Immediately regret that choice of words. Point here is, now, if we're over in the Fortress of Nerditude, and I don't do it around Lonzo out of respect to Lonzo, but if Captain America, Chris Evans, and I are down on the other end of the hallway and we're talking, yeah, he and I might sprinkle a little pepper into the conversation. The point here is, very dynamic word. You can use it anyway. Exclamation of joy and happiness, exclamation of anger, sadness. You can call things that. You can use that as a descriptor. It's a great word. And therefore, the connotation behind that word can be anything. Positive, negative, neutral, whatever. I feel the same way about buddy. Can I use it in a condescending term? Absolutely I can.
Yeah,
that is a terrible take, buddy. Can I use it in a positive way? Hell yeah, I can. I can be like, dude, buddy, hell of a job. That's a very hockey one, and I only know that because a couple of the boys were up there at the well yesterday, was having conversation. One of them, Miles Gendron, player for the Swamp Rabbits, fan of our show, great one. Yesterday, he was like, I heard you guys having an argument. You know what he brought up hilariously? Miles Gendron, player for the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, said yesterday, after I talked to him for like 2 or 3 minutes, he goes, by the way, it's a chili dog. That's it. That's all he said to me, right? Like we had a conversation and then he stops as he's about to leave and he goes, oh, by the way, it's a chili dog. And then he walked away. So not only is he a fan of the show, but he's like hitting the highlights.
Yeah, but you and I weren't arguing over that. We completely agree. We're in solidarity on that. Maybe that's it. But
with at least 1/20th of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits roster, okay? But we were all sitting up there having the conversation, and they got to talking about Ovechkin playing the Rangers tonight. And we were having the conversation that Rempe's suspended. The Rangers' big fighting guy, going to be out. This feels like a good night to put a little change down on Alex Ovechkin to net a goal. And he did, by the way, in the third period, tied it up 2-2. The Capitals would go on to get the dub over the Rangers 3-2 in OT. But he said something to the tune of, buddy, he's having a great season. It's a wonderful word. I'm glad to add buddy to the lexicon because I feel like, positive, negative, neutral, you can use that word anywhere. If you call somebody buddy, it could be 100% negative. But I could also slap you on the buttocks and go, hey, great game, buddy. And that's a positive.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that around here.
I'm not going to do it
I'm
here.
sure that's an HR violation.
I mean, there's some people that'd probably be more okay with it and less okay with it than others.
Actually, I'm probably the only one you could get away with that. It's probably just
I
me.
want you to know, I love you. Taylor Swift heart hand emoji. I'm not slapping you on the butt and saying good game, buddy.
I've had that happen here, but only by one person. Everybody else would be afraid.
Can confirm that's not me.
Yeah, not you.
Not yet.
So who would you slap on the butt in this?
I don't think
I mean, who would you feel? You think you could hit your ex and he'd be okay with it? Maybe not today, but
no,
I mean,
I don't think Diesel would be okay with it. I do think Cole Bryson would be like, word, right? Like he's closer to his departure from playing organized athletics, the one place in America where it's okay to tap the booty and say good game and it's not weird.
What did he play?
I assume.
See, you don't know.
I assume.
You don't know something that didn't require height.
That he played inside linebacker. That's just my assumption for no justification.
He's got a pretty quick 40, so maybe he did.
All right, we got a lot we got to get to on the radio program today at 8:40 this morning. Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to swing by. We'll check in on his thoughts the Carolina Panthers at 8:40 at 9 o'clock in the AM.
We're going to ask him if he's okay with a Bosa.
If he's okay with a Bosa, like adding a Bosa? Like adding the available Bosa?
The Bosa
that just got cut?
Yeah.
That is the Bosa. I talked to that. I was hosting BetMGM tonight last night. Final hour of the show was me and Hatin Ass Mario together rolling for 60, and that came up. He does the official Chargers podcast for the Odyssey Network, and the Chargers obviously cutting other Bosa last night. And I said, this guy's been with the Chargers for a decade now. Is this the right call? And he said, not only is it the right call, but it needed to be done last year. And then he pointed out how many games.
Yeah, he's been hurt a lot.
He's been hurt a lot.
He has.
I don't know because you're still going to have to pay a premium for him. He's not on my radar for Carolina, despite the fact that they need a defensive lineman. I'm going to where I've been staying. I'm going to hold on to what I've been staying 10 toes down when I say it. Draft linemen. All of them.
I'm just saying a healthy Bosa. I know there's no guarantee, but a healthy Bosa, also veteran leadership, all that kind of stuff would help the Panthers. But Rashad probably will disagree with me like you.
Again, like this is a.
I have no bias, no reason to really
tell you
get into Joey
if I
Bosa.
could get Joey Bosa on like a 3-year, $30 million contract, $25 million contract, I'd take that. But Big Bro and Max Crosby with 2 X's has reset the market for defensive linemen. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in league history. We're going to talk about that coming up in a minute.
If you get cut, you're not going to get that.
I didn't say you're going to get it, but the market is reset. And when a market resets, like the defensive edge rusher market got reset yesterday, Yeah, he went to 106 million with 91 and a half guaranteed. That drags everybody on that sliding scale to him. Bosa's going to cost you more today than it would have cost you if you signed him yesterday at noon before Crosby got his deal. And I don't know how that's going to work out. We will talk about that with Rashad Beard at 8:40. Hatin Ass Mario at 9 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on it as well and talk a little NBA with Mario. It's Thursday.
You forgot somebody.
No, I didn't. Okay. I'm coming.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that you do the thing.
I'm coming to that here in a minute. 9:20, it's Thursday. You know what that means. Fight Club with the great one, Alonzo, as we continue to watch the after effects of Elimination Chamber and the second biggest heel turn, question mark, in the history of professional wrestling.
Yeah, we're going to have to revisit that.
We are going to have to revisit that. Oh, are you moving it down the list? It sounds like you're moving it down the list.
No, that's number one on the list. It's going to be number one for a while.
We're going to talk about that coming up at 9:20 on Fight Club. And at 8 o'clock, we will be joined, as we are every Wednesday. Excuse me, what's today? Thursday?
It's Thursday.
I'm struggling right now.
All day.
Every Thursday by the lovely Lulu Kesin, who will be stopping by in studio. She is here in the upstate covering the Southeastern Conference women's basketball tournament at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, and she has been kind enough to get up early, leave her hotel room, and come check in studio. We'll have Lulu at 8 o'clock here in the studio, Rashad at 8:40 on the stream, Mario at 9 on the stream, Lonzo's Fight Club at 9:20. Anything?
I'll still be on the stream.
I thought that one was a for granted.
Okay.
Anything, everything you want to get to? Now until 8 o'clock, it's your show. We're going to talk NFL. We're going to talk NBA. We're going to talk NHL. Alex Ovechkin now a single digits number away from the great one. We had another milestone in the NBA last night. Giannis Antetokounmpo crosses the 20K mark. He's 30 years old. Could he catch bronze 50? Talk about that and a whole lot more as the show rolls on. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. Let's go! It's the Fan Upstate.
I'm trying to think if I should wait till like the 7 o'clock hour to go get it, because there's no place to plug it in over there. Battery life should be pretty good. Talking about my laptop.
Yeah.
But if I go plug it in now, it's going to be on for an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, I'd say let's get it at like the 7.
Oh, it'll make it an hour.
Yeah.
No, she comes like, yeah. Have you been on the thing that Steve sent us an email about to be prepared for next week?
Yes. I logged onto it last night at like 10:45.
Do you remember the training and everything? And how
I saved it.
Okay.
Because I needed to revisit
Okay.
it. Which, this may shock you.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking you the question right now. I mean, I also would have to really revisit how things are done. But I only need to know how to do it to help you, because they hate me downstairs. So I don't ever have to worry about me having something on there. It's a fan attitude. Everyone hates everyone. Everyone sucks.
I don't hate anybody. I love everyone.
Buddy. Okay, should I put my hair up when Lulu's in here? I don't know.
I don't know how to answer that. I can't.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to do. I ain't doing it now because it's drying. It takes it like an hour to dry now. Because I need a haircut, which I plan on getting next week, probably. Depends on which one, Zach. Some of the flashes are okay. Like Barry, and I think I'm good with Bart too, depending on the iteration of it.
I'm a winner. I know how to win.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
I was here the whole time. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show on the radio. Rob Lonzo and you. Last night in the National... Last night was a damn good basketball night, man. Real good basketball night. Stayed up. I was hosting BetMGM tonight along with Brad Evans. Got the last hour rolling solo with Hatin Ass Mario. And I had 4 games on the 75. I had 3 games on the 45. I had 2 games on the laptop, 1 on the tablet. There was SEC basketball. There was NBA basketball. It was a good night. A game that I was not particularly following with any interest, mainly because I knew it was going to be an absolute blowout, was in the NBA, where Giannis Antetokounmpo and his Milwaukee Bucks were taking on the Dallas Mavericks. And, of course, no Anthony Davis, no Kyrie as his ACL is popped. He is done for the year. Anthony Davis likely going to shut it down as well. I was reading some of the setups of this game. And I saw at one point little ticker come across whatever network I was watching that said the Dallas Mavericks, who are not a bad team. They're actually above 500, but obviously that was with half the season with Luka Doncic on the record. That was with Kyrie Irving available up until earlier this week. Both of those cats gone now. And then the injury report came across last night. P.J. Washington, sprained ankle. Caleb Martin, strained hip. Dante X, right foot. Jaden Hardy, sprained ankle. And then the ticker said the Dallas Mavericks, underdogs in this game already, have 3 players available off the bench. 3 total. They have 8 players available to dress out. None of them named Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic, or Kyrie Irving. None of them. So I thought, that game's going on the back burner. I had that game on like the little screen down on the corner. Because, and I don't know if this is more my fault, more the NBA's fault, more Milwaukee's fault. I don't know whose fault this is. Somebody's fault. I did not know that Giannis Antetokounmpo was in stretching distance of crossing the 20,000 point mark on his career. 30 years old, 20K points recorded as of last night. Knocked that number down in the first half. But I saw the celebration that was taking place on the television after it happened. The Bucks ran a big tribute package to Giannis Antetokounmpo for his time in Milwaukee. They were doing some stuff on the court, whatever. Started scrolling the social media. People were talking about it, et cetera, et cetera. And the question mark I came up with as I watched that was, this happens just a couple of nights after LeBron James hits the 50,000 mark. The only player in the history of the National Basketball Association that has done so. The conversation about LeBron getting to 50K was, will we ever see this again? I talked about the fact that the Lakers brought Luka Doncic over from the Dallas Mavericks to make him the face of the Lake Show whenever LeBron calls it quits. If they win a chip this year, I think he'll call it. If they do not, then next year's up in the air. I don't think he's going more than 2 more years. But realistically speaking, Bron's going to finish probably, if I had to guess, somewhere between like 50,800 points and 5,200 points. Pretty good year. Pretty good career, I would say. Will anybody ever catch that? Is anybody ever going to get to that mark? And we were talking about this off the air when I was doing the show last night. And the conversation we came up to is like, who? Who could do that? Could Luka do it? Is there anybody else we're even having? Could SGA do it? Guy's got 4 50 burgers on the season this year for the Thunder. Could he get there? And I think we all kind of agreed that if anybody could do it, it's going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, an NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP, a 2-time MVP, an NBA Cup champion, which we know we hold as just high prestige as the NBA championship itself.
So hard to win.
2024 NBA Cup MVP, 9-time All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, 6-time All-NBA First Team, 2-time All-NBA Second Team, NBA Defensive Player of the Year in 2020, 4-time All-Defensive First Team, All-Defensive Second Team, Most Improved Player in 2017, All-Rookie Second Team in 2014, which means he's been in the league for 10 seasons now. He's gotten 10 seasons, and he's gotten to 20,000 points. Now, I'm, and this is true, bad at math.
No, come on, dude.
I know.
I mean,
I'm shocking everyone.
wow.
Every job that I do involves words into a microphone. That's because words aren't numbers. So.
Well, and algebra and trig and
Right. But I'm not.
Letters.
I'm not explaining those into a microphone. I talk about dumb things like old men playing children's games for money. That's way more fun, way more entertaining to me. So, as someone who is bad at math, I am relatively sure that if Giannis Antetokounmpo has played 10 years and he's gotten to 20,000 points, if this was a word problem, the next half of that word problem would probably say, how many points would Giannis Antetokounmpo score if he played 20 years? And the answer is because I did my fingers and my toes and everything to figure this out, 40,000 points. And this is also true. Another math fact that I just happened to know off the top of my head, 40,000 is less than 50,000. Not only is it less than 50,000, but it's roughly 10,000 less than 50,000. And at the pace that Giannis Antetokounmpo has played so far in his career, he would have to be able to keep up the pace of play that has made him an NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP, a 2-time Most Valuable Player, an NBA Cup champion, an NBA Cup MVP, a 9-time All-Star, an NBA All-Star Game MVP, a 6-time All-Star First Team, yada, yada, yada. You get the accolades. He would have to keep up that pace for 10 more years, and then 5 more years after that to have a chance.
I'm glad you went simple math, because more complex math would be to point out how many points he scored in 20 years and ask how many games it would take for him to surpass the current leader.
Yeah, I'd rather just do that in a year by year as opposed to game by game.
Which, by the way, is moving math, because the current leader is still going to score more points.
For sure. So just to get to, forget catching, Braun, to get to 50,000, to become the second player in NBA history to record 50,000 points, the guy that I would argue, I think fairly, is the most dominant scorer of the basketball in the NBA. Maybe not most dominant player. I think that's Nikola Jokic. Maybe not the most dominant inside man, the dominant outside man, whatever, but just the most dominant all-around scorer in the NBA. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo can do things inside that Jason Tatum cannot do. He can do things outside that Nikola Jokic can't do, and he's got more mass to him than SGA. I think he's just the most dominant scorer of the basketball in the NBA. He would have to do what he's done so far for 10 more years, and then do that for 5 more years after that, unless he picks up the pace. Yesterday in this segment, I sat here and I said, if you're not watching LeBron James, and you're not watching him because, I'm tired of people comparing him to Michael, I'm tired of people comparing him to Kobe. If you're not watching him because I don't like his movies, I don't like his politics, I don't like his attitude, he flops, whatever. I'm not gonna beat you up for having a reason not to watch the guy. The only point that I was making was that you're costing yourself an opportunity to watch history be made night after night, game after game, every time this guy goes to the floor. Because the next dominant player in the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo, would have to take the time that he has put in so far for the past decade. He would have to do that for another decade, and then he'd have to do it for another half a decade after that to get to 50,000. LeBron's past 50,000. We got, 38% of the NBA's regular season left to go for this year. And I don't know if we're going to be right or not. We'll find out. LeBron and I have both prognosticated that if LeBron wins a chip with the Lakers this year, he'll retire. But if he doesn't, I think, Zoe, do you agree? He's running it back for one more next year? Now that he's got Luka on this squad and the Lakers are clearly willing to invest?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's another thing. I know we talked about that yesterday, but what if they win and they win in a fashion that ignites even more of a fire to go, okay, we could do this again next year?
Yeah, I got no idea.
Because, championships, I'm guessing, is an addiction if you can win them.
We do like winning.
Yeah.
Zoe and I end every show trying to figure out, did we do anything today that's going to help us get number 4? Do we do anything today that's going to get us Crystal Trophy numero 4? Anything. Winning is an addiction.
I'm told someone's coming for us. That's what I'm told. I'm told that show in the afternoon, they're coming for us. Because one half of that show wants to compete and wants to win.
Listen, competition makes everybody better. I'm here for it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. If we beat them, it'll be handshakes and hugs all around because there's only 2 finalists. And if both finalists come from the same station, I'd say the station's doing something right. If they beat us, the next 365 days of my life will mean nothing more than getting it back. I will shake their hands. I will pat Cole and only Cole on the butt and say good game. But I have an addiction to winning.
I've never been in that position before. So
to pat somebody in the butt and say good game?
No, I don't know if it. I've never been beat by someone else on this station.
Yeah,
so
I think it would drive us both up a wall.
I don't know how I would deal with it. I may just retire. I may be like, I can't handle the devastation.
Don't do that because you can retire after we run the revenge tour, and we
both want to be able to
that.
do at least 5 times,
100%.
5 times.
100%. So winning is an addiction. It's an addiction that I have. For sure. It's an addiction Lonzo has for sure. It's an addiction a lot of people have. A lot of people don't have. I ain't judging whether you do or you don't. I don't know LeBron James. I don't know because at some point, winning feels great, but like physical pain feels worse. And at some point, there's going to be a trade-off there. I don't know if he comes back for another year or not if they win a chip this year. Here's what I do know. If he does, he's going to be closer to 5,200 points than 50,000 points when he's done. That means that Giannis would have to go 10 more years, then 5 more years, then probably 2 more years after that. This guy, who has already won an NBA title, an MVP, has been a 6-time, 7-time NBA All-Star, would have to do everything he's done for the last 10 years for potentially like 12 more years after that to get there. You see how ridiculous that is? That's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not asking for that out of Luka. I'm asking for that out of the most dominant scorer in the NBA right now.
All this praising of LeBron James is just upsetting people.
They'll be all right.
Do they make any Steiner Math T-shirts? I want one of those. I'll have to look that up.
I'm better at Steiner math than I am regular math. Lulu Kesin at 8 o'clock to talk South Carolina Gamecock women's basketball as the SEC tournament got underway yesterday right here in Greenville, South Carolina. Damn, the Tennessee Lady Volunteers won by 40 in the opening round. We'll talk some basketball with her at 8. Rashad Beard at 8:40. Hatin Ass Mario at 9. Fight Club at 9:20. It's a busy show. If you want in, do it now. Because once we hit that 8 o'clock hour, you're out. You're done. I got no room for you from 8 to 10. I got all the room for you from 6:35 to 8. 844-326-3663. The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
Ruth. I have to tinkle. Hurry up, Roger.
Be right back, dudes and dudettes. Stay right there for me, please.
I was in my feels about it. That's all I know, just like everybody else. But you gave up, man. You went back on your word. You don't never do that.
Hustle, loyalty, respect. Out the window. Why? We were rooting for you, John Cena.
If anybody was rooting for you, it was me. Dude, what do you think? Because this is your childhood hero. You got wanted to be a wrestler because of this guy. So what do you think?
Did he break your heart?
I'm shocked.
Dude, they're so cringe. I thought it was awesome. Good for John. After all this time, we finally get to see the real John Cena. He just sold his soul for a championship. I love it. Good for you, John. You're the man. Yeah, his face, literally.
Ortizawa.
Pretty accurate. That is
Not cool, JC.
Never give up. He gave up.
Everyone now can see what we've all known backstage for a very, very long time, that John Cena is all about the money. He's all about the money.
I've known Cena since I was a kid. Growing up from a deadbeat and then just being around various deadbeats. It showed his true colors, right?
Keep up. I can see you now. Let's talk about The Rock.
Still owes me a pair of shoes. Yeezys, to be exact. He came back because of me. I embarrassed his friend Pat McAfee, and then he wanted to show up. And then he ambushed me, laid me out, and then threw my shoe into the crowd. What's that about? And now him and Cena run together?
I don't even know what to say.
He owes me a pair of Yeezys. What's a Yeezy?
It is a shoe that Austin Theory should not want to be replacing, as it is a Kanye design.
Oh, it's a Kanye. That's what I thought it might be. Kanye, who was wearing a swastika T-shirt.
That's the one.
Yeah, that guy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Everything's going great for Yee.
You stay classy.
Taking you all the way up till 10 a.m. It's the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Great to have you, people. I am Rob Brown, the great Malonzo, on the ones and twos this AM. If you'd like to be a part of the show, now is a wonderful opportunity, wonderful time to make that happen. There is a list of banned topics on this show. It is not a long list. It is not an extensive list.
So, like Pink Floyd?
No.
Def Leppard?
No.
Boy bands?
No.
Okay.
You know, I'll get down to some In Sync. I could probably still do.
Stop playing games with my heart.
Ain't no lie, baby.
Wow, that was really good. You don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing on the stream.
I used to won a high school talent show my junior year with me and three other buddies. Did the full dance to In Sync's Bye Bye Bye. Won a talent show with it. Sticks with me. No.
Now you got the hair to match. People couldn't see it because you got the hat on, but yeah.
The banned sports topics list. There are not but a few of them. At the top of the list for a very long time has been Pete Rose. Pete Rose was a banned conversation on the show. And it's not because I do or don't have an opinion or anybody else does or doesn't. It is because I don't know. In the 17 years that I have been in this industry, broadcasting in various regions of the country during a nearly 2-decade career, God, I'm old, I have never, not one time, had somebody say, I have or have not changed my mind on Pete Rose. It is a fruitless conversation because I'm going to sit here and tell you all the reasons that I think he should or should not, and you're going to tell me all the reasons you think he should or should not, and all the people who think he should have the same reason, and all the people who think he should not have the same reason, and it's a philosophical reason, and no one in the history of the Pete Rose conversation has changed their mind. So I have put it on the banned topic list because to me, it has always been a waste of time.
All right, I have a legitimate question here as opposed to the questions that I usually ask that are not legitimate. If you talk about a banned topic, aren't you technically making it a topic?
I have only talked about the banned topic and pointing out when the topic has arisen that it is a banned topic and we will not talk about the banned topic, but then I don't want to get into the depth of the conversation.
Okay.
I don't go
technically it's now a topic, isn't it?
Well, it is a topic.
It's a topic because it's a banned topic, not because you're touching on the topic itself.
No, because I am touching on the topic now.
Oh.
And I'm touching on the topic now.
Is this presidential?
No, it is commissioner-redential.
Okay. All right. Because I heard a thing where someone, wanted someone in the Hall of Fame. I didn't know if it was real or not, so I didn't know if that's what you're talking about.
As far as I know, that is true. President Donald Trump, who was friends with Pete Rose, wants Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Again, banned topic. Not because it's Donald Trump, but because Donald's got his opinion and he's not going to change it, and I'm not going to change mine.
I agree with him. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Here's why I bring this up.
Just because he played in Ohio, and so I absolutely were born to have to go, yeah, we love Pete Rose.
Yeah, the Buckeyes travel in packs.
Yeah,
we've learned.
Yeah, just like Clemson people get it, because that's how they are with all their stuff.
The reason that the unbanned topic is an unbanned topic for a very brief period of time is because Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred is reportedly reviewing a petition to reinstate Pete Rose, which would, if passed, make him eligible for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
But being eligible doesn't mean people will vote for you.
That is also correct. Pete Rose died in September of 2024, September 30th, if you want the exact date. There is only one reason that Rob Manfred would reinstate Pete Rose, and that one reason is to get him into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, this is where Rob Brown is going to, maybe for the first time on the Fan Upstate, reveal where he stands on the Hall of Fame discussion. I don't think Pete Rose should be in. I don't. And it's for one reason and one reason alone. Major League Baseball Rule 21D, clause number 2 says, quote, any player, umpire, club, or league official or employee who shall bet any sum whatsoever upon any baseball game in connection with which the bettor has a duty to perform shall be declared permanently ineligible. That rule was placed into baseball in 1921.
Really? It's that old of a rule.
1920. That rule is over 100 years old. It was over 80 years old when Pete Rose
How many people
did that.
How many people playing the game understand that rule has been around and even know the rule exists? I'm guessing they talk to the guys when they come in.
I can actually answer that question for you because I've had this conversation with former Major League Baseball player Cody Decker. Everyone. And the answer is everyone because, and Deck has confirmed this to me, and I do trust Cody Decker, every major and minor league clubhouse in baseball has a big-ass poster displayed in their clubhouse with this rule and only this rule on it. And this isn't new. This isn't new within the last 5 years where the popularity of sports wagering has exploded. This isn't new in the past few years when networks like the BetMGM network and their incredible roster of talented and very sexy hosts have taken off. This is not new. Decker told me that when he got drafted and he got brought up, and he was a Padre to start it, and then he played for a handful of other teams, minor and major, throughout the rest of his career. Every clubhouse at every level had this poster plastered in a very prominent place in it. It is something that baseball has taken seriously since the Chicago White Stockings of the 19 teens and 20s. It is not something that they have just casually mentioned to rooks. No. It is a big deal that is reiterated annually to every person at every level of Major League Baseball. Max Scherzer gets the same speech that the backup left fielder in Toledo gets when the Walleyes start their season. This is going to be one of those times that I am going to sound like one callous S of a B. It doesn't matter that he's dead. That doesn't change anything. All it makes it feel like to me is you were just trying to disrespect Pete Rose. We'll let him in when he's dead. And he doesn't know that he's a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. And he can't celebrate that he's a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. And he can't market himself as a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. Because now what it feels like is the penalty is not that you are banned from baseball for doing a thing that is, again, plastered on big-ass posters in every single clubhouse from the top ranks of MLB down to single-A ball at its lowest level. Everyone is told this. Pete Rose dying should not change the fact that this rule, which is still a rule, it would be different to me if, say, hypothetically, back in the day somebody smoked weed and they got kicked out of the league for smoking weed. And then 20, 30, 50 years later, after that guy was dead, MLB or whoever turned around and said, yeah, we don't really care if you smoke weed anymore. We're kind of over that. And so
they haven't said that yet.
They have not said that yet. It's coming down the pipe for sure.
We'll see.
It's coming down the pipe. But
ooh, don't do that again.
I just said but.
I know, but it did something.
I know it did something. I didn't. I just said but. And the butt exploded. I hate it when the butt explodes. I'm proud of me. It doesn't matter that he's dead. The man willingly violated a rule, a prominent rule, a rule that is hammered and hammered and hammered, that is put up on posters, that is labeled everywhere in every rank of Major League Baseball, willingly and repeatedly violated that rule as both a player and a manager. And then, after he was banned from baseball back in 1989, Pete Rose lied about that until 2004, when he finally came around and said, okay, I'm tired of answering the questions, and now everybody's got a podcast, so I'll go ahead and say it. Yeah, I did. I did it. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't think it was going to impact my job. No. The man lied about it from 1989 to 2004 when he finally claimed clean, and then he went on a redemption tour from 2004 to 2024 when he passed away. Now, I'm all for second chances. Always have been. But there is a difference between redemption tour, where Pete Rose, I think, was eventually kind of almost to a degree lovingly re-embraced by baseball fans, right? Like in the early 2000s, Pete Rose was kind of considered a person that you wanted to maintain your distance from. And then over that 20-year redemption tour, Pete Rose was kind of re-accepted into baseball. In fact, one of my favorite clips of all time, there was a clip when Pete Rose was on MLB Tonight, back when that was a show, and he put on an absolute clinic in like a 2-minute hitting segment about how many guys in Major League Baseball go into a slump and they change their swing, and it's like your swing is what got you here. Don't change your swing. Change everything else. He said there's a handful of things you can do. Choke up on the bat, choke down on the back, step up in the box, step back in the box, step forward in the box, step left in the box, right? Change everything but your swing. Your swing got you here. There's a reason that suddenly your swing's not working, and it ain't the swing. So change everything else around. It was a great clip. It is a clip that when I coached baseball, which I haven't done in a while, when I coached baseball, this is something that I would quite literally show the kids. Look, if you go up there and you go 0 for 5 in a game, don't change anything. You're in your rhythm, your routine. You're hitting the ball. You're just having a bad slump. Let's change everything else. It was a great clip. And Pete Rose kind of became an accepted public figure in the world of baseball. But even I, someone who makes a good chunk of my annual income by talking about gambling, by promoting gambling. I am a gambler. I am a fan of it. I enjoy it. I understand that it is detrimental to the lives of many people, and I actively encourage those people, don't do it. But for those of us who are able to work it into our expendable income and enjoy it as a recreational activity, have at it. even I am like, dude, you willingly, knowingly violated a league rule. And I'm not talking about a league rule like, chewing gum on the field when you're not supposed to. I'm talking about a league rule that had you been busted in the process of it happening, you could have killed the sport. That's one of the big conversations going on right now. There are like 3 or 4 active and open federal investigations into gambling rings at different levels of sports. One of them is happening right now back in my own hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana, where the UNO Buccaneer basketball team has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different players under a federal investigation for being involved in a gambling ring. There is another one going on in basketball, in the NBA right now. These are things that while I am a gambling enthusiast, do it recreationally with spare money for funsies, and I encourage you to do the same if you are a gambler. While I am a fan, I also understand that the day that the integrity of a league dies because of gambling, not only does the integrity of the league die, but the ability to gamble for those of us who aren't willing to break the law to do it also dies. And I don't want either one of those things to go away. Pete Rose committed a mortal sin against baseball. He threatened the integrity of the league. And listen, I don't care when owners get their feelings hurt. There is a difference between threatening the integrity of the league and hurting the feelings of an owner, and the owner claims that his hurt feelings threaten the integrity of the league. John Mara, that's a different story. John Fisher, that's a different story. But when you threaten the integrity of the league to the point that you threaten fans' ability to enjoy it, that's bigger than you. That's bigger than you. That's bigger than me. That's bigger than all of us. And I understand that we show respect for the deceased in this country. Good. Fine. Great. But Pete Rose dying does not wash away the fact that he committed what I believe was the most egregious attack on the integrity of the game since the early 1900s White Sox. Why is a petition brought forward by Pete Rose's family? Of course they have his back. Why is a petition brought forward by Donald Trump, yes, the president of the United States, not a noted big-time baseball guy? Why is this something combined with the death of Pete Rose that we go, yeah, we understand that maybe more than anybody else in 60-plus years of baseball, he threatened the integrity of the game, of the association, of the league, but he's dead now, so we're like kind of cool with it. No. Do not reinstate Pete Rose. In fact, not only do not reinstate Pete Rose, change the rule that if you're caught gambling on baseball while you play baseball, it's the Pete Rose rule. You done, you cooked, and I don't care if you die. You're not getting in. It is, as a gambler, I cannot allow that to impact the integrity of the game, and Pete Rose is the poster child of that. It doesn't matter if he's dead. Rest in peace. See you on the other side, but no, you don't get in. Sorry, Pete Rose's family. What he did, second chance, sure. Redemption tour, become a character on the MLB circuit, absolutely. Become a Hall of Famer? No. He attacked the integrity of the game in a way that nobody else has done in a very long time. Sorry, he's dead. That sucks. Doesn't change anything. Hey, when we come back, I got your water cooler cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office. Then I got 40 minutes where the phones and the text line belong to you. After that, Lulu Kesin for 2 segments, Rashad Beard to talk Panthers, Hatin Ass Mario at 9, Fight Club at 9:20. The show is rocking today. The Rob Brown Show, the fan upstate. Now here is the true star of the show, the Zohayan himself, Lonzo with a sports flash.
Not going to work. I'm still offended. By the way, it's hard to believe in the history of baseball, no one else has ever done that. Clemson basketball program is one step closer to a top 10 ranking with 78-69 win over Boston College last night. The Tigers were led by Jaden Zachary's 21 points, Chase Hunter's 18, and Ian Shefflin's 13 and 8 boards. Clemson out-rebounded the Eagles 43-26 in the win. The Tigers will wrap the regular season Saturday at home against Virginia Tech. Alabama's on a 2-game losing streak after dropping a 99-94 game against Florida last night. The Gators, Alex Condon, had 27 and 10 boards, and Walter Clayton Jr. added 22 and 8 assists in the win. Make sure you tune in this Saturday at 8 p.m. as Furman Paladins take on the Sanford Bulldogs in the first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. It's Furman versus Sanford right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, upstate. My boy band of choice will always be New Edition, by the way. Then you all can cool it now. Because I win.
Okay, I have to verify what we said. Yeah, 30 seconds, guys. Be right back. Friends, it's all right. We back. Thanks for getting in there, guys. Had to do work stuff.
I just needed to fix my hair. We're good though. Had to bring in the makeup artists and the hair people.
Which we definitely have.
They're just waiting out in the hallway.
Touch up. Seven o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob the Great Malonzo and you. Rolling up till 10 a.m. Listen, I'm going to dive right in because we got a busy second half of the show. We got Lulu Kesin coming by at 8 a.m. in studio, live on the stream to talk SEC Women's Conference Tournament basketball with us. At 8:40, Rashad Beard joins the show to talk Carolina Panther football with us. We'll see if there's any interest in any of the players who have been cut, released, or demanded a trade over the past 28 hours. At 9 o'clock, Hatin Ass Mario from the BetMGM Network is going to join us. We'll get his thoughts from an NFL-wide perspective on Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Joey Bosa and the rest of the gang. 9:20, it's Thursday. You know what that means. Fight Club with the great one, Lonzo. One of the biggest heel turns in professional wrestling history taking place last Saturday. We're going to dive into that at 9:20. 9:40, after we get to the 8 o'clock hour, that 9:40 segment will be your last opportunity to participate in the show. If you want to participate in the show, this is the hour to do it. Because once we get to 8 o'clock, it is packed up tight the rest of the ride. So, 844-326-3663 is the number to text the show. 844-326-3663 is the number to call the show and get on the air. The Twitter, at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, at The Fan Upstate, and the live stream is up and kicking for you this morning. Facebook.com/The Fan Upstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube, or Twitter, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. You can watch the show live on any of those platforms.
That's a lot of ways to get this show, so you have no excuse.
We're accessible.
Yes.
Baby. We're accessible. All right. We're going to dive at 7:03 in the morning with 56 and a half minutes
Said
before
dive.
Dive.
There's a V in there. We're not going to die because, yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We work a lot to the bone. Look at I can now visibly see the full patch of gray hair in the beard. I blame that on work.
Should I buy you? I don't know how expensive the little brush thing is.
The Just for Men?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I've come to the conclusion that I just embrace the gray at this point. I am going to be a hell of a silver fox.
Well, it's already in the hair. Especially,
hell of a silver
yeah, it's already in the hair. So,
I'm getting the full rogue streak going right now.
You are.
Yeah.
And by the way, more visible every week.
I'm painfully aware, buddy. Painfully aware. See, that was a negative connotation. Okay. 7:04 in the AM, 56 minutes till you got to get to the office. You got to sit in that chair. You got to log into that computer. You got to respond to that stack of emails that you really don't want to have to deal with. And let's be honest, you're going to want to talk about sports. That's why we're here, to help you so that you know what it is you're going to be talking about. And that is why Lonzo and I, every single morning at this time, do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, "Burn it down! Burn it down!" Take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
The watercolor cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office this AM and start talking sports with your coworkers. Again, diving right into item number 1. Item number 1 is a collaboration of stories that came out yesterday around the National Football League. Some of them, and maybe all of them, may have an impact on the Carolina Panthers off season, maybe the rest of the NFC South as well. We will find out. Let us start in Seattle, where the Seahawks made 2 moves yesterday. Well, made 1 move and then allowed somebody else to go find one. Veteran wide receiver Tyler Lockett has reached the end of a 10-year run in Seattle, arguably the second most prolific pass catcher in franchise history. The Seahawks announced yesterday that the 32-year-old, coming off his least productive season since 2017, will be released since they were unable to come to a contract resolution. They signed a 1-year extension last March. Seattle and Lockett were hoping to do the same this year, but because of the reduced numbers, Seattle was unwilling to bump up the pay, and he was unwilling to accept less. He was projected to maybe take a step backwards to wide receiver number 3 for Seattle, behind not just DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba, but also to maybe be a guy who would see his on-field playtime reduced dramatically. Obviously, they didn't want to do that because at the end of the day, whether you like being there or not, you want to be on the field so you can show somebody else that you're worth paying the amount of money that the Seattle Seahawks were going to not pay him. That brings us to the second breaking news out of Seattle yesterday. Very shortly after Tyler Lockett announced, or I guess the Seahawks announced they would not bring back Tyler Lockett, they also announced that they have given DK Metcalf permission to go seek a trade as well, meaning in about a 2-hour span, the Seahawks went from Lockett, Metcalf, Smith-Njigba to Smith-Njigba, and then we better go get some guys. at the wide receiver spot. DK Metcalf apparently requested a trade not connected to the departure of Tyler Lockett, but the timing did line up that way. The Seahawks upset that the news of Metcalf's trade request was leaked on a day the organization was attempting to celebrate the decade of service that Tyler Lockett gave to the team in Seattle. The source said, the source talking to Adam Schefter, take it for what it's worth, said that they were allowing DK to explore trade and that they were exploring trade options as well. But at the end of the day, the priority was to, according to the statement, quote, do what's best for the Seahawks, end quote. DK Metcalf's agent did not respond to requests from any source that I have found so far about the trade demand yesterday. Schefter reported that the team had already engaged in trade discussions regarding Metcalf before yesterday, though it was not clear if they were actively shopping the receiver or just seeing if someone was going to come to them with an offer that they could not refuse. But the absolute freak of nature at 27 years old is going into the final year of a 3-year, $72 million contract extension he signed in 2022. He was set to make a little over $18 million this next season, but by trading him before June 1st, the Seahawks will clear $11 million in salary cap space, though they would take on $21 million in dead cap money. DK last year, 66 snags, 992 yards, 5 touchdowns, missed 2 games with a knee injury. Both of those receivers are now out there and available. Also in the NFL, the defensive end market has been reset. 4-time Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby has agreed to a 3-year, $106.5 million contract extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. That makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the National Football League. The deal includes $91.5 million guaranteed and keeps Crosby under contract through the end of the 2029 season. Crosby said, "It's an honor to be held at that high of a standard. I take that seriously." His extension averages $35.5 million per season and is more AAV than Justin Jefferson, than Nick Bosa, than CD Lamb. It is the first deal of a busy offseason for edge rushers because Trey Hendrickson has got to get a new contract. Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland. The Browns have said, yeah, no, absolutely not. But the question mark with this reset is, will somebody make an offer that the Browns can't refuse for Myles Garrett? He would then get a new contract more than likely. Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, all in line for new contracts. And now the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League is a defensive end. This is going to be real interesting. The importance of edge rushers in the 2025 National Football League, in my opinion, cannot be understated. Why? Look at the quarterbacks who are at the top of the game right now. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, et cetera, et cetera. What do they all have in common? They can boot, scoot, and boogie, as the old Brooks and Dunn song says. They can get outside of the pocket and extend plays, but still be really good throwing quarterbacks. Used to be if a guy was able to get outside of the pocket more often than not necessarily as big of a throwing threat, meaning you could commit extra guys out wide to go get him. Not anymore. Josh Allen gets outside of the pocket. He's just as lethal as he is standing back there. Patrick Mahomes gets out of the pocket just as lethal. Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, these guys get outside of the pocket. Not only can they scoot on down the pitch and make things happen with the legs, they can still toss the rock. Meaning having defensive ends that can set the edge, that can keep those quarterbacks in the pocket and not allow them to expand plays by getting outside of it. There's an increased value there. There is a reason that Max Crosby has got this deal. There is a reason that Dallas Cowboys fans are losing their bleeping minds about the fact that Micah Parsons is not signed yet. There is a reason that Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland. Not just to go play for a contender, but because a multi-time Pro Bowler is going to get mucho dinero for being able to do that. The market reset yesterday with Max Crosby. Let's get to item number 2. every time Alex Ovechkin scores for the remainder of the season, it will be a water cooler cheat sheet item. Why? He is now in the chase to catch the great one, Wayne Gretzky, single digits away. His 885th career goal was netted midway through the third period of the Caps' 3-2 OT win over the Rangers last night, moving him to just 9 behind what was long considered perhaps the most unbreakable record in sports. Ovechkin is on pace to break Gretzky's once seemingly unapproachable mark sometime within the next month if he stays on this pace. Avi said after the game that it does not feel any different now that he is in the single digits away, needing just 9 more. And for the funsies, if you're an NHL fan, while we're talking about Alex Ovechkin, the Capitals are now tied with Winnipeg for the NHL lead in points. They have 88. It is only they and Winnipeg that sits atop the list. Ovechkin asked before repeating the gap separating, the head coach of the Washington Capitals, Spencer Carberry, said, what do we need? 10 more. We got this. The head coach is locked in on getting Ovechkin to that record. Avi has 46 goals in 76 career games against the Rangers. He had 15 in his first 18 games this season, then sat down 16 with a broken freaking leg that kept him out about 4 weeks. He returned December 28th. Lonzo, if you or I break a fibia right now, how long are we out for? Decade?
All right, don't put me in that, because I'll drive to work with a broken leg. But you know,
not me. I'll be working from home in a wheelchair for the next 20 years of my life if I break a fibia. All right.
I had surgery on we'll say my groin, and was working the next day. I like to work.
Good for you. He's a winner. Not me. I break my fibia. I am done. I'm working from home or I'm not working at all.
But
I bank 300 sick days. I'll use every one of them.
All right, neither one of us have a job where we're working on our feet. I mean, you are now by choice, but still, if we had a job that required walking or doing something strenuous whilst on our feet, there's probably no one listening that would be back to work that quick.
Which is why Ovechkin missing 16 games on a broken leg is wild. 46 goals in 76 against the Rangers. He sat out 16 games, returned December 28th, has scored 17 in 28 games since, putting him on pace to break that record in the next month. Let's get it to item number 3 very quickly. Wild night last night in college basketball. The Ole Miss Running Rebels came into their game against the Tennessee Volunteers unranked. They exited the game against the Tennessee Volunteers. 78-76 winners. Chris Beard's team playing that defense again. Held the Vols to 46% from the floor, a couple of percentage points below their season average. Also kept them to less than 39% from behind the arc. On the flip side, they shot 46%, but they also lifted up 14 more field goal efforts than the Vols did. They shot just 5 of 19 from behind the arc, but if you go 5 of 19 and your opponent puts up 31 threes and shoots 38%, you're probably in a decent spot. Ole Miss was last night. The University of Alabama sees their tumble continue. They've now dropped 2 in a row as they fall to Florida last night, 99-94. It was a back-and-forth game all night long until the last 2 minutes when the Florida Gators were able to slap the floor, play a little defense, and keep Alabama just away from the glass. I'm also going to say this. For a team that I've bragged about all year long, for a team that I've bragged about their head coach, about their basketball intelligence, the Alabama Crimson Tide melted down last night. They got the ball back down 6 with 15 seconds left to play. Mark Sears, who is a star in the making, decided to drive the lane and put up a contested mid-range jumper down 6 with 15 left to play. That's not going to be it. Then the Gators didn't score. The Tide were still down 6. The Tide get the inbound. They come down the floor, down 6. 5 seconds left to play. Got to put up a 3. Got to make it, get a foul. Hope they miss. Grab it, get another 3. Instead, Mark Sears, for the second time in 2 critical possessions, drives in, puts up a contested mid-range jumper and misses. Florida walks out with the 5-point win on the dime last night. Clemson 78-69 winners last night over Boston College. Chase Hunter led all scorers with 18 points, 21 for Jaden Zachary. He led all scorers in this game on 7 of 12. The Tigers shot 50% from the field. They shot 40% from 3. More importantly, 43 rebounds for Clemson. They kept Boston College to just 26. That's how you win basketball games down the stretch. Maryland, number 13, knocks off Michigan 71-65 in a game that was never close, unfortunately, for the Tigers. Louisville runs by Cal 85-68, meaning that the likelihood of Clemson winning the ACC outright has dropped down to the single-digit percentage. They would need both Louisville to end their season with an L. They have 1 game left against a bad Stanford team, so probably not. They would also need UNC to knock off Duke. That's a little bit more likely. Unranked UConn knocked off Marquette last night, 72-66, and unranked Oklahoma took down number 15 Mizzou, 84-96. The Boomer Sooners were in fuego last night, 57% from the floor, 41.2% from deep. College basketball was electrifying last night. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. Did I say? Okay, somebody texted me, 844-326-3663, and said, Rob, it's fibula, not fibia. Yeah, it's the fibula, but then there's also the tibia, and then I just jammed those 2 things together. Let's keep it a buck here. If I break a big bone in my body, I'm going to die.
Well, there were multiple mistakes made during that entire thing, and you just keep going. That's also very true. If you break your fibula, you don't care what it's called, it hurts.
Correct. I broke a finger one time. I had it live. I cracked a rib one time. You ever cracked a rib? And cracking a rib might be the worst thing in the world. Not because, pain of the injury.
I disagree with that, but still.
Not because of the pain of the injury. It's the worst thing in the world because if you have a cracked rib, everything hurts. Sitting down hurts, standing up hurts, walking hurts, not walking hurts, breathing hurts, laughing is the worst thing in the world. When I had a cracked rib, I wouldn't talk to my friends because all they wanted to do was make me laugh because they'd go, ha, 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 oh, kill me.
Wow. That's so cruel. I would never do anything like that.
You were laughing thinking about it.
Yes, I am. I don't know why it brings me joy.
When we come back, we talked a little bit about the settlement that ACC has reached with Clemson and Florida State. I gave a good couple hours of thought to this yesterday. Talked a little bit about it last night on BenMGM Tonight. I'd like to bring you the conversation. Y'all, the next 4 years of college athletics, at least in terms of conference expansion, it's going to be nice, relaxed, and quiet. And in 2030, I think all hell is going to break loose. And I'll tell you why when we come back on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Sorry, friends.
All right, guys, quick live, and we're coming right back. Y'all stay right there. Clemson, Florida State have both reached settlements with the Atlantic Coast Conference. We told you about this yesterday. The real quick rundown, if you haven't heard about it yet, is that there were two objectives that were accomplished, the schools set out to accomplish, that the conference was willing to bend on a little bit. The first thing that changed was the exit fee for leaving the conference. The expected exit fee coming into this year was going to be north of $200 million, but worse for the schools is that not only was it going to be north of $200 million, but it would be $200 million to leave, and the ACC would still retain the rights, the media rights agreements of those two schools, meaning that, sure, you can go to the Big Ten, you can go to the SEC, but your games still get played under our banner. That's bad news. There's obviously no value in picking up Clemson or Florida State if you can't, put them on TV. The ACC has now said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Starting this year, upcoming, a $165 million exit fee. That exit fee will decrease by $18 million per year. And if and when you pay the exit fee, you will leave with your media rights in hand. Meaning that next year, if one of those two schools elects to jump over to a big-time conference, the Big Ten or the SEC, they would pay $1.65, but they can move their games over to the network of the other conference immediately. The exit fee will decrease every year annually after that by $18 million to 2030-31, where it will cap at a floor of $75 million, meaning from 2031 until the end of the current grant of rights agreement the ACC has signed, it will cost you $75 million to leave. The other thing that was agreed upon was a revenue distribution plan that is a brand awareness model. The ACC is going to take the money that it distributes to schools at the end of the year, and it's going to divide it into two pots. It's going to put 40% on one side. That 40% will be distributed to every school in the conference equally. Of that 40%, everybody gets an even piece of the pie. The other 60% will be split up percentage-wise based on brand recognition, effectively eyes on the product. The higher ratings, the more games that you are featured in inside of the top 100 games of the year, the higher your ratings are consistently, the more money you will get. And they have calculated that on a 5-year average. Last night I got asked, why would they do that on a 5-year average? The answer is because that incentivizes being good for long stretches of time, not save up, go on a 1-year blast to get a big chunk of money, then put it all the way in the bank for a couple of years and repeat it a few years later. Now, to get a bigger slice of that 60% of the overall money, it is better for a team to be consistent year over year for any given 5-year rolling period. That's what the settlement came down between the conference and those two schools. So where does that leave us? What happens next? I got a prediction. That prediction is that conference expansion amongst the larger conferences and the larger schools is likely done for right now. It's likely done. And I think it's likely done because if we talk about the schools that are out there that are these proverbial crown jewels, Clemson and Florida State are at the top of that list. Those are the two biggest brands, Notre Dame notwithstanding, that are still available. Notre Dame obviously is not going to go anywhere unless they are allowed to keep their NBC television rights deal intact. And I do think that's going to happen down the line. I do think either the SEC or the Big Ten is going to grab Notre Dame, and they are going to say, you can keep your deal with NBC. Bong, bong, bong. You can keep your deal with the Peacock because we're still going to have the rights to, like, a good chunk of your games. And we can renegotiate down the line what that changes into. But put that aside for a minute. Notre Dame's not moving anywhere anytime soon. Florida State and Clemson, the two biggest crown jewels still left out there, now are probably locked into the ACC until 2031. It's only 5 football seasons away from now. It ain't that long. 5 years down the road, I think chaos will reign supreme. Here's why. We know that schools and conferences are willing to strike some pretty big deals when they feel like there is a benefit to both parties for a move to happen. I brought up yesterday SMU. The Mustangs wanted to come to the ACC. They were getting left behind by the other schools in Texas. So Southern Methodist reached out to the ACC. The Big Ten wasn't going to want them. The SEC wasn't going to want them. So they reached out to the ACC and said, hey, we'd like to party. We like to party. We'd like an invitation, please. And the ACC said, well, gonna keep it a buck here with you, Stangs. You guys don't really add a mega piece to the pie right now. You don't really bring enough money to the table that we feel like splitting up what we currently make by adding you is going to be all that worth it. And so SMU said, tell you what, we'll go 2 years and not take $1 from the ACC. We'll just get floated by boosters. And the ACC went, oh, okay. Well, that's 2 years for you to use the conference and the resources provided by it to get yourself back into contention. And as Lonzo and I both said yesterday going into the year, we liked Rhett Lashley. We liked SMU. We liked the quarterback scenario, although Jennings got benched for Stone later in the year. Still a pretty good set of quarterbacks they ran through. And SMU ended up playing for the ACC title in year number 1. They also ended up in the playoffs. And the ACC didn't have to give them $1 of their money to make it happen. So schools are willing to make sacrifices to jump when they believe the long-term payoff is worth it. And conferences are too. The SEC and the Big Ten have both paid exit fees for other schools to make the jump over to their current school. Now, if I'm the SEC, do I want Clemson, Florida State? If I'm the Big Ten, do I want Clemson, Florida State? Yes, it's 2025. Nothing is more important than brand. Nothing. Everything that every company does rotates around the word brand. Clemson and Florida State have two of, if not the two, biggest brands that are not already members of the Big Ten or the Southeastern Conference. However, are those brands worth paying $168 million worth of exit fee? Probably not, to be honest. That's probably 10, 12 years, especially if Florida State's going to turn around and put up another 2-10 or 3-9 season over the next couple of years. But are they worth a $75 million exit fee? Probably. And here's the thing, because we know that schools, even though Florida State and Clemson are both bigger than SMU, they understand the long-term benefit of being in the Big Ten and the SEC is higher than being in the ACC. I don't think that's a shock, surprise, or insult to anybody. It's just reality. In 2031, that exit fee drops down to $75 million. If I'm the SEC, if I'm the Big Ten, and I have decided that I want one and or both of those teams, I'm on the horn with the athletic director of both of those schools. And I'm saying, here's what we're going to do. We'll call the ACC right now. We'll read over the phone our credit card number, our expiration date, and that little 3-digit code on the back of the card that validates it. And we will pay that $75 million right now. And in return for that $75 million, we will pay you over the next 3 years 65, 70, 75% of your annual conference distribution. We will put the other 40, 35, 25% towards your tab of the exit fee itself. And if I'm Florida State and I'm Clemson, I'm taking that. Because 80%, 75% of the SEC's payout 5 years from now, 75% of that is going to be about what the total payout from the ACC is going to be, even under the new revenue distribution model. I'm taking that deal. Here's another fun part of this. In 2031, there are a number of grants of rights agreements coming up for renewal as well. One of them is the Big Tens. One of them is the college football playoffs. The Big Ten, going into that revenue redistribution, that grant of rights contractual negotiation with Fox, wants to make their valuation as high as possible. Does that valuation grow with Florida State and Clemson added to the roster? You're damn right it does. So the Big Ten's going to look and go, yeah, it might cost us $75 mil. Maybe it cost us $75 mil twice, $150 mil out of the gate to get them both in here. But do we think we can get $150 million added to our annual contract with Fox Sports by having those two logos on the brand roster? Again, you're damn right it does. I think we're probably about to enter about a 5-year period of peace of conference expansion. in 2031, chaos reigns supreme. And we talked about the Big Ten. We talked about the SEC, Clemson, and Florida State. Let's talk about the ACC, because I think there might be a strategy behind this in a completely different direction for the Atlantic Coast Conference. I'll tell you what that is when we come back. Rob Alonzo and you, The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, give us 45 seconds. We got to make some changes in the studio. We'll be right back. March Madness tournament. All of those years, basically every major grant of rights agreement comes up for renewal in a 2-year window between 2031 and 2033. I think the SEC's might be 2034, but I think it's 2033. I don't know off the top of my head. Either way, it's in that window. And here's the deal. When the Big Ten's comes up for grabs and renewal, and Fox Sports says, hey, yo, we need to sit down. We need to talk about these numbers. The SEC is going to push ESPN to go ahead and do the same thing. Hey, why don't we sit down? Why don't we go ahead and match whatever the Big Ten's going to do so that we're not getting left behind? Because, hey, getting left behind for 2 years might be the same as getting left behind for a decade. So I think all of those are up for grabs. And I think that is going to skyrocket the value of Florida State and Clemson to the point that those $75 million exit fees in 2031, all of a sudden, they become pretty worthwhile investments when it's all said and done. But where does that leave the Atlantic Coast Conference? Specifically, if Florida State and if Clemson were to leave. I have a theory working right now. Basketball is the second revenue-generating sport for these big-time schools. Basketball, including the March Madness tournament, is where schools supplement their football money. For a bunch of the smaller schools, it's the only place they make revenue. So, if Clemson and Florida State leave, the Atlantic Coast Conference still has Miami on the table. They still have North Carolina. They still have Duke. They still have Virginia left on the table. I think the ACC can survive. But I think it's got to do one thing. As weird as this is going to sound, I think they got to try to make themselves a dominant basketball conference again. Now, we know right now they're not. They got Clemson, they got Duke, they got a couple of bubble teams, and that's it. The ACC used to be the single most dominant conference in basketball, and now they're not.
You just decide, oh yeah, I think we'll just be a dominant basketball conference again. They were the conference in basketball, and they let it slip away.
Yes, they did.
You can't just decide, we'll just fix it next year.
It's not a matter of talking to the schools that are currently in and saying, hey, get better now. That'd be nice. That'd be nice if you could just call up Chapel Hill and be like, yo, what the hell are you doing? Fix it. That'd be nice. But that's not the strategy. The strategy is for the ACC to do to the smaller mid-major conferences what the SEC and the Big Ten are doing to the ACC. That is to say, you go find teams out of the Big East, teams like St. John's. You're going to go, Rob, they're not going to add anything on the football field. I don't even know if St. John's has a football team, to be honest with you. Not off the top of my head. But you go find those schools, and you say, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to add you to our basketball roster. We believe that what the SEC did this year, iron sharpens iron. When your top 4 or 5 teams get better, teams 6, 7, 8, and 9 follow. When teams 9, 10, 11, 12 get better, the rest follow.
The St. John's University football team ended the 2024 season ranked number 7 in the final American Football Coaches Association poll.
There you go. So you bring them over. And while St. John's might not add all that much firepower on the football field if you graduate them to the FBS level, what they do add is Rick Pitino has just won the Big East Conference for that school for the first time since like 1991. What they do add is a hell of a basketball pedigree. And then you go look at the teams in the Big 12. And you say, here's the deal. The Big 12's right to negotiate comes up in 2032. Ours comes up in 2031. So what do you say, Big 12 teams that are very good at basketball? What do you say? You jump over to the ACC. Let's build the most dominant basketball conference that's ever existed. Let's add every Big 12 team that's very good. We'll still have a good football conference here because some of those teams like Kansas, teams like Kansas State, teams that are on the up and up. You add teams like that into the mix, and all of a sudden, not only have you added 2 really good basketball teams, but you added 2 football teams that, and you're hoping this is still true in 2031, are trending upwards and trending upwards quick. Now your football team, now your football conference looks better too. So now when it's time for you to renegotiate your grant of rights in 2036 or question mark before that, because the Big Ten and the SEC are leaving you behind and you can go to ESPN and go, look, here's the deal. You guys own us for 4 more years, but if we don't bump these numbers up, we're not going to be competitive. We're not going to be able to give you a product that's worth paying for and hope that they go for that. I think The strategy for the Atlantic Coast Conference at this point is going to be to shift. It is no longer about trying to create a football conference that can keep up with the SEC and the Big Ten. It is now about trying to keep a basketball conference together. A basketball conference that sends 12, 13, 14 teams into the March Madness tournament annually. The SEC is probably sending 9 this year, and they're going to have a boon because of it. So build one that allows you to send 11, 12, 13 teams to reap all of the benefits of sending that many teams, to reap the revenue, and more importantly, to reap the eyeballs from having a, without a doubt, dominant basketball conference in an era of the football world. Because, while college basketball obviously ain't college football, it does not have the same gas, the same juice, the same electricity nationally that college football does. It is the only other revenue-generating sport. And so if you create a basketball conference that is clear-cut the best in the nation, because you bring maybe some of the mid-majors up that are annual March Madness tournament participants, a couple of Big East schools, maybe you go find if there's a team out of the Big Sky that's been dominant for 5, 6, 7 years. Maybe you bring them up. Maybe you go to the Big 12 and you go, look, here's the deal. Yeah, you're going to make some money for the Big 12. They're about to get that. But here's the thing. We believe if you jump to the ACC, not only will we have a football conference that rivals the Big 12, but we will also have a basketball conference that clearly is better than the Big 12, which means you're not only going to get the revenue from the football world, an equal share of 40% of the pot, and an unequal share of 60% of the pot, but you're gonna, with the departure of Florida State and Clemson, you're gonna be one of the most watched teams in this conference, no matter who you are, if you're coming out of the Big 12. So you can make some of that money. If you're in the basketball world, you're a St. John's, maybe you're not really registering on the football Richter scale, but you are one of the most watched college basketball teams. That counts in the equation. You gonna get some more money. Teams like that will make more money in the ACC. And you sell to the Big 12 that while the ACC's grant of rights as written today isn't worth more money than the Big 12's, if you help us put together a dominant basketball conference and a pretty good football conference, we believe our football conference can surpass the Big 12's and our basketball conference will surpass everybody else's, which gives us a bigger revenue stream from teams playing into the March Madness tournament, from teams getting more national games on it. You know how many national games were featured on TV last night from the SEC? There were 4 of them on national television networks last night. 4 of them. Create that in the ACC. Create a world in which ESPN on March 5th of 2031 has 5 or 6 ACC matchups across their national networks. Now the revenue jumps up. Now the your rights agreement being negotiated in 2036. You go, hey, this is how our basketball conference is structured. It's the most dominant in conference in college basketball. Add us to the roster. And they go, we'd like to do that. Because while it's not football numbers, still pretty good numbers. I don't think the ACC, scratch that. I know that the ACC is never going to get media money the way the Big Ten does, the way the SEC does. But I do think this is a way for that conference to survive. And I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to say if you don't do this, if you don't attack it this way, do you know who will? The Big 12. What happens if between now and 2031, when that exit fee for the ACC drops to its lowest, $75 million, what happens if the ACC can't talk anybody to joining them? North Carolina leaves. Let me ask you a question sincerely right now. What's the best landing spot for UNC? There's 2. The Big 10 and the Big 12 to go play with the other blue-collar basketball programs. And if North Carolina goes, Duke's going with them. And if the ACC loses Duke and loses North Carolina to the Big 12, the ACC is dead at that point. Not hanging on, not fighting to be the ECC, nay, beep, 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 dead at that point. Basketball is obviously not at the forefront. Football is. But I believe that there is a way for the Atlantic Coast Conference to build the most dominant conference in the history of college basketball, to ride that to a deal that is at least closer to the Big Ten and to the SEC, to put together the most dominant basketball conference, and if you get the right teams to abandon the Big 12 to come over there because you can pay them if you assemble this, a more than respectable football conference as well. A more than respectable football conference. To the point that I think there is the chance, assuming that the SEC at some point will switch to the revenue distribution model that the ACC has. What happens if the ACC is able to talk Maryland out of the Big Ten back to the ACC? Basketball conference looks real good again. What happens if they're able to go get a Vanderbilt? Now, your academic reputation, for whatever that's worth. Brad and I got into that last night. He's like, oh, you got the academics of the Big Ten. I'm like, Brad, does anybody care? Quick, name me. I'm a big nerd. I read scientific journals for fun because I'm a loser. And even I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. So help me out here. Correct. I read a long one about frogs last night.
Wow.
It was really cool. It was really interesting. We're able to genetically modify frogs now in a way that we can actually directly test impactful cancer medications on frogs that we have genetically modified so that their DNA a little bit more closely resemble humans. It gives us an opportunity to really test these drugs in a way that takes leaps forward instead of small hops.
I mean,
get it?
Yeah.
Frog joke.
I was going to say that's amazing, but have they duplicated the ability to get jumping ability?
Not that I'm aware of.
Suddenly, if Rob Brown could suddenly be above the rim doing a tomahawk floating up there, would you take the frog DNA?
I mean,
would you lick a toad?
Is there? Well, I mean, we got like Toad as a villain, but I don't think there's like a frog man in the comic book rotation yet. Might be worth a shot. I think the ACC can build a dominant basketball conference that is also pretty damn good at football. And while they'll never catch the Big Ten and the SEC, I'll tell you what they can do. They can take the best of the best from the mid-majors. They can maybe snag a handful of schools out of the Big 12. Maybe you can convince a bottom feeder or two of the Big Ten and the SEC to jump over. And now all of a sudden, you got a conference that while it may not be the Big Ten, be the SEC in terms of revenue brought in, it is more than enough to survive at that point. And more importantly to us as fans, give a place for a bunch of schools who are not worthy of the SEC and the Big Ten to just exist and play sports.
Or you just wait for the new savior, his name is Bill Belichick, to bring the ACC back to prominence, and then the money will come.
Here's the thing. What is the revenue distribution model change that was most impactful in all of this? Brand awareness. Bill Belichick is probably going to have the third most eyes-on football team in the ACC next year.
No, he won't.
If they don't threaten Florida State for number 2.
He will have the number 1. I'm talking about nationally, maybe not in the ACC itself, but nationally, everyone's going to be looking at that school to see what he does.
I mean, for a week or two.
So for more than that, for the entire season, sink or swim, that school is now, this is the ACC, whatever he does. The other two teams that you mentioned, I forget who they were, they're on the back burner now. It's all about Belichick.
UNC has TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, and Clemson as their first 5 games. They're going 2-3 in that stretch.
I don't recognize that 5th one.
Let's look at the right. Okay, well, I'm going to put this to bed because I actually think we have another football program and coach that we can draw a comparison to and actually test this theory. We'll come back to that later on in the show. When we come back, the lovely Lulu Kesin is going to join us right here in studio to talk about the SEC's women's tournament. She's here in the GVL covering that. Then at 8:40, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast comes by to talk Panther offseason football. 9 o'clock, Hatin Ass Mario breaks down all the headlines of the NFL. 9:20, Fight Club with the great one, Lonzo. We talk John Cena's heel turn and more. And the final segment of the show, that's when you come back. All of that and more comes up after Lonzo entertains, enthralls, enlightens, educates, and potentially arouses you with this Sports Flash.
Yeah, disregard the last one. Hoodie is the ACC. Sucks, Clemson, doesn't it? The Clemson basketball team Does not suck, though. The program is one step closer to a top 10 ranking with a 78-69 win over Boston College last night. The Tigers were led by Jaden Zachary's 21 points, Chase Hunter's 18, and Ian Shefflin's 13 and 8 boards. Clemson rebounded the Eagles 43-26 in the win. The Tigers will wrap the regular season Saturday at home against Virginia Tech. The Las Vegas Raiders extended defensive end Max Crosby to a 3-year, $106.5 million deal, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in league history. The contract includes a guaranteed $91.5 million and surpasses Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and others. Tune in this Saturday at 8 p.m. as the Furman Paladins take on the Sanford Bulldogs in the first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. It's Furman versus Sanford right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball, the Fan Upstate. We'll be right back because, he's getting the gas.
Golselli. You gotta like it. Why, ladies and gentlemen, you might ask? Well, this is ordinarily the time where I would say, joining us on the phone, a young lady who covers the South Carolina Athletic Department for the Greenville News. She is Lulu Kesin. I'm gonna say like 87% of that because for the first time, I'm gonna say joining us live in the studio is a young lady who covers the South Carolina Athletic Department for the Greenville News. Joining us here in studio, Lulu Kesin in town covering the SEC Women's Tournament down at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. Welcome into our humble abode. How are you?
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here in person. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're fantastic. Thank you for coming by. I assume that the Greenville News did the honor of like putting you up in a very comfortable. I'm a big hotel guy. I sleep better in a hotel than in my own bed, make it like 8 degrees and just crash. So the fact that you were willing to get up and come outside this early to come hang out, we appreciate it.
Of course, this is truly so fun, so thank you.
Heck yeah. Love to hear that. Here's what I'd like to do, Lulu Kesin, since you have been kind enough to become a recurring character on this little bleep show that we call the Rob Brown Show. I would like to take the opportunity to allow you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit more to our audience. You've been with us for, I don't know, like 7 months now at this point, talking football and basketball, and very soon transitioning to maybe my favorite sport of all, a little college baseball. We'll get to that in a minute, but tell us a little bit about the background, where you came from, how you ended up here, and how you ended up covering the Gamecocks for the Greenville News.
Yeah, so I'm from Massachusetts originally. I'm sure some South Carolina drivers are confused when I'm on the highway next to them with a bunch of Massachusetts plates and stickers on my car.
Our last coworker didn't change his Texas plates for like 4 years.
Okay, good. Okay, cool.
Probably still has it.
Probably still has them, yeah.
Okay, perfect. I joined the South Carolina women's basketball beat. I cover football and baseball as well, as you said, but I got here in between the Final Four and the National Championship last year. So not a bad time to start. Pretty much my first in-person go-around after just meeting Shane Beamer at a spring practice was the National Championship Parade in Columbia. So I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary here. I've always wanted to cover women's college basketball at a pretty high level. I'm lucky that I'm able to do that now.
Yeah, you nailed that one.
Yeah. I love it here. I love my job. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and it brings me cool things like being on the radio every week. So thanks for having me.
Of course. We're glad you are. So you came down from Massachusetts. Celtics fan?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I figured. Jason Tatum's face of the league. I don't care what anybody says.
I appreciate that. I get in a fight with, we have a reporter on the beat who's from Philly, and he told me Jason Tatum has no aura, which I was like, that is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. So I'm glad you're also a Tatum appreciator.
Lonzo, what's aura mean?
Well, it depends on what your definition of aura. For an old person like me, it's like I don't know. It's how much you show up when you enter a room. That's your aura.
Yeah.
I think
don't act surprised.
You're still hip to the cool
Don't act
kids.
surprised.
I am interested in that basketball team. I think the Lakers are dominant out of the West. I still think the Boston Celtics are the best team in the league, and I don't think it's close anymore. To be honest with you. Lulu Kesin joining us here in studio on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Off Seat. So you get to South Carolina right in time to jump into the very end, the heated part of the Women's National Championship tournament last year. I do have to ask, what was your first experience and what are the memories of your first experience with Dawn Staley? Because I've had her on the show in the past. She is a riot to talk to. What was your first experience like, and what has it been like maintaining that relationship with Dawn Staley since you got here?
Well, luckily, I'll shout out the SID, like the Sports Information Director for South Carolina, who got me a one-on-one interview with Dawn pretty early into our relationship. So it was kind of funny because I hadn't met her, and I didn't at this point either. But basically, I was told one random afternoon in early April that Dawn was going to call me for a story on Camila Cardoso, who's about to get drafted. And it was just very funny to hear her very, chill, just having gone on kind of this tear of interviews, and she was on the Today Show, I think, at that point, and obviously very animated on ESPN, as she should have been. She just went undefeated. So it was very fun to kind of get her she's just soft voice, talking slow, just chatting. And then we eventually kind of met in person in May when the Las Vegas Aces came for the preseason.
Which was super dope, by the way.
That was incredible. To sit at a table with Becky Hammond, Asia Wilson, and Dawn Staley, I was like, I'm a month into this job. This is absolutely insane. So that was awesome. And then obviously once practices ramped up in October, Dawn and I got, now she knows my name.
Love that. Love that. This team she put together last year had a probably 4, 5, maybe 6 WNBAers on it long term. And then obviously, Asia Wilson right now, I would argue, face of the WNBA. Camila Cardoso's up there doing big things. Like, there's a number of Gamecocks there already. There's a number more still in Columbia on the way. I think not only are you getting to cover arguably the most contemporary, dynamic, and dominant team in women's college basketball, you're also covering, like, at least one WNBA All-Star team down the line. I have been an advocate and proponent of women's sports in this role for a very long time. You have the opportunity to cover and spread what Dawn and Columbia is doing there. How big is that, do you think, in that role for the growth of women's sports, but also just basketball as a whole?
It's huge. And first of all, I'll give you a shout out for doing that. I appreciate your role in talking about women's sports and, again, for having me on so I'm able to. I think especially now a lot of people are using kind of the phrase like grow the game. And I think that's very important to acknowledge that women's basketball is obviously getting the media attention now that it's always deserved. There's very talented coaches and players throughout the league. But I do think South Carolina can sometimes be almost a victim of like fatigue in the sense that fans are like, oh, we want someone else. They've been so good for so long.
Lonzo's a Chiefs fan.
Okay.
He gets it.
Yeah. I.e. like the SEC voting this year and awards and things like that. I'm not here to say that Vic Schaefer didn't necessarily deserve SEC Coach of the Year, but those are kind of when the conversations happen when, okay, South Carolina, yeah, they lost 3 games compared to none last year, but that doesn't mean they took a huge drop off. So I do think it's important that when you're highlighting the really great teams and kind of the powerhouse programs like South Carolina, UConn, Tennessee, that you don't have to make them smaller to make other teams in the women's basketball world as a whole bigger.
That's interesting because I've had the perspective for a long time that I would absolutely say, and I think in the context of being honest about where everything is, like the gap between Texas, LSU, Tennessee, South Carolina, and even the next group of like ranked 11 through 20 teams, that gap is wide. And I think you kind of have to acknowledge that. But I've also said that as the teams at the top get better, because it used to be, for instance, just UConn. It was Gino Oriama. It was Diana Taurasi when I was in high school. It's Paige now. But it was UConn was winning 100 in a row. And even as somebody who wanted to see the game grow, it was kind of difficult to invest because it felt like an inevitability. But eventually, Dawn gets to South Carolina, that team's on its way up. Kim Mulkey gets to LSU, that team's on its way up. We're starting to see talent spread out because at the end of the day, there's only so many people that can go play in Columbia, can go play in Baton Rouge, can go play in Texas, can go play in Connecticut. And I think that when you say grow the game, to me, that's what it's talking about. It's, yeah, South Carolina is the dominant team, but that doesn't mean that eventually that roster fills up. Now we have more good players because we've gotten younger girls interested in the game, learning the game earlier. And now all of a sudden, maybe there's a 4-star, maybe a top 3-star out there that South Carolina didn't have room for, but Clemson does, but Georgia does. And now all of a sudden they start building that talent. And I think that is the benefit. And for the record, cap to Gino Oriama for doing what he did to start this whole thing. Pat Summitt, another hero of mine out at Tennessee, for doing that. But I think we're starting to see the investment in women's basketball pay off at the college level. And now that you're getting this new generation of Caitlin Clarks and Cameron Brinks and Asia Wilson's moving up to the WNBA, all of a sudden they're filling out NBA arenas too.
Right, totally. And I think Juju Watkins, starting what she's doing at USC, or the other USC, I should say. Be real careful. I'm going to be really careful there. Obviously, Cheryl Miller and, the Trojans were phenomenal at one point in time, but there was kind of that large gap where talent wasn't necessarily staying there. And now with what Lindsay Gottlieb's doing and Juju, and like exactly what you're saying, just more teams are getting the number 1, number 3, number 4, even through 10 recruits in each high school class, and it isn't just so stacked. But obviously growing up in Massachusetts, UConn was kind of all that I heard about when I was super young.
I was growing up in Florida. UConn's all I heard about too. It was Gino and it was Pat, and then it was just a distant gap to everybody else. That gap, even though it's still there, the gap used to be from 1 and 2 to 3. Now I think it's more like from 10, 11 to 12. And with the, again, increase in talent, like the part of the reason why, and I've had a lot of people over the years that have gone, why are you talking about this? Well, the answer is because There's a parent in a car right now driving around with a little girl who maybe loves basketball. And what I'm not going to let happen is people to get to, oh, women's basketball's boring. We don't care. Yeah, we do care. And we want it to be great. And it is great not when we have great college players, but when we have those young girls that look and they have their kid. And this is the other part to me about, the Caitlin Clark effect, they call it. But again, like, I think this last year with Angel Reese, with Cam Brink, with Camila Cardoso, like, this was the most visible WNBA draft class of all time, to the point that the WNBA has spin-off leagues now that are helping these players develop in the offseason. That visibility, I think, is tangible for young girls to go, not only can I play basketball, but I can play basketball in a way that is a national television product at this point if I'm good enough at it. And when this next crop of young girls who watched Caitlin Clark come through Iowa and go to the Dub, Cameron Brink come through Cal and go to the club, etc., when they start transitioning into middle and high school basketball, there'll be a lot more 4- and 5-star players to go around.
Totally, and especially when UConn was so dominant, that was what pretty much media coverage was only willing to cover.
Yep.
It wasn't about anything else. So you have these, 7th graders who are like, oh, I could never play for a team that hasn't lost in 3 years. And now it's, there's so much dominance, but it's also the media is acknowledging everybody in every part of women's basketball, not just one team.
Yeah, I think if there was 10 years ago, if there was a Paige Beckers, that team's undefeated. Like, just having Paige Beckers, that team's undefeated. UConn ain't even close to undefeated. They're not even, I think they're like the 7th longest odds to win the Natty this year with Gino Oriyama and Paige Beckers, who is going to be the number 1 overall pick in the Dub next year. And all of a sudden, that team is like, it's a good team, but it ain't dominant. It used to be a player like that, like a Diana Taurasi in 2001-2 when I was in high school, that won you all the games. Now you got to have 3 of those to be competitive at the top level. There's a bunch of teams that have 1 of those girls, 2 of those girls, and they're kind of like transitioning up. But I just think, as somebody who is an advocate and proponent of women's sports, like, I think we're in an incredible transitional time that 5, 6, 7 years from now, we're going to look back at this conversation and go, damn, we were pointed in the right direction.
For sure. And I hope that with all that, more national outlets hire women's basketball reporters and create more jobs that are solely dedicated to women's college sports and the WNBA, for sure.
Love it. Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News. She joins us every Thursday at 8 o'clock to talk South Carolina Gamecock athletics. Joining us today in studio because she's in the GVL covering the SEC Women's Tournament down to the Bon Score Wellness Arena. How do you like Greenville, by the way?
I love it. It's beautiful.
Right?
It's really, really beautiful.
I got here 5 years ago. Yeah, I just live here now. It's home now. It's the best.
I love that.
We are going to do this. I'll tell you what. Let's run to a break just a couple of minutes early because Lulu's going to hang out with us for one more segment. When we come back, let's talk about the SEC Women's Tournament. You were there yesterday, got to cover the games. You're going to be there throughout the end of the week. Of course, South Carolina tips their first round game after winning the number 1 seed via coin flip at noon tomorrow. So we'll set up everything else that's happened, who the potential opponents for the Gamecocks might be at noon tomorrow, and then what a path to a conference championship and potentially another natty looks like for Dawn and the girls. We do that when we come back. Lulu Kesin for the Greenville News in studio with me, Rob Brown, with the great one, Lonzo, and with you, it's the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, real quick live read, and we're coming right back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. back. Thanks for hanging out. JD shouting out Lulu on the stream. The era of UConn winning every game by 40. Oh, yeah. It wasn't just that they won every game. It's that, like, they were never challenged. It was a tough watch even if you loved it. Now everybody's challenged. It's great. Like, even South Carolina's undefeated streak. They had some ball games in there.
Absolutely. A year ago. Mm-hmm. For a great example.
That's good vibes up in here today. I like it. Good vibes on the show. Rob Brown, the Great One Lonzo, and you. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the fan
Boss is
update.
out of town, so he can't
That's fair.
play in this, probably.
There's no rules. There's some rules. Lulu Kesin of the Greenville News covers the South Carolina Gamecocks for that publication. Joining us here in studio, hanging out for one more segment. I do have to say, when I opened the door to meet Lulu in the parking lot and I said, good morning, she said, you sound just like you do on the radio. And I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's a good thing. It was definitely not bad.
I'll take it.
Was it as loud as you thought it would be? I mean, that's usually the thing.
His good morning was normal volume for sure. But now that I hear his in-studio voice, it's right back to a phone call.
Yeah, I apologize for not giving you headphones.
Yep, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's I should have done that, but
in this studio,
the extra headphones I have are a little bit cracked, and I didn't want
it. It could be headphones or hearing protection. It's the same thing.
It is the same thing. Yeah. It's if you have those big things like from the airport, I would love some of those headphones. Those would be awesome.
It's nothing to apologize for, because if it was the opposite, it'd literally be like an SNL skit. So I appreciate that I can hear you and that you're passionate. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
I won't bring up which one, but that is one of the greatest SNL skits of all time.
Oh, 100%.
Alec Baldwin kills in that sketch. All right, we're talking with Lulu Kesin. She is in town covering the SEC Women's Basketball Championship Tournament. And we are going to talk about South Carolina. Their first game is tomorrow at noon. They catch the winner of Tennessee, the 9 seed, and Vanderbilt, the 8 seed. That game tips off at 11 o'clock this morning. The winner of that game gets the Gamecocks the next day. And Lulu Kesin, if you would have told me 12 hours ago that was the case, I'd have been like, all right, I mean, you get the winner of the 8-9 seed, like as the 1 seed. Good thing you won that coin toss. What a good spot. And then I go look at the fact that Tennessee put up 77 and held A&M. Granted, A&M the 16 seed in a 16 tournament. Still a 40-point round 1 victory for the Volunteers. So I'll ask you to start this. Was that more the Volunteers up in the game, or Texas A&M just not on that level yet?
Well, Tennessee lost really badly to Georgia and Kentucky. It's 2 games to end the season. So I do think it was okay. Tennessee realized we have to wake up. I think Kim Caldwell said they had to have like some type of like come to Jesus moment. I think Tennessee was almost in need of exactly what it got, like a commanding victory. That said, I do think that the game today will be harder just because I think Texas A&M, I don't want to say they were closing the doors on their season, but it just obviously wasn't their year. And so competition-wise, it was a perfect match. But, I mean, Tennessee lost to Georgia, who some could argue is kind of in the same talent pool as Texas A&M is. They obviously lost to them in their final regular season game, which wasn't great. So I do think that Tennessee really stepped on the gas and refused to let up at any point. And do I think that they'll do that to Vanderbilt? I don't. But it was definitely Tennessee in dire need of a huge win.
This Vanderbilt team that is up against Tennessee is kind of interesting because it is a team that is sitting at 21-9 this year. It's also a team that's had a handful of games. They put up a lot of points. Like, this one could end up being a track meet. I'll put it this way. As a sports gambler, the over is a layup in this one, I feel like.
Yeah, I know nothing about gambling, so don't take my word for it, but these are 2 teams that can score. Obviously, Michaela Blakes has dropped 50 points in 2 different games, so it's definitely going to be high-level offense on both ends.
This team has put up 100 in 2 of their last 4. They put up 91 in the other one. In fact, the only game in the last 4 that they did not have a 90-plus point performance was an 82-54 loss to South Carolina. But that loss, like you can see, it clearly sparked something in the doors because they blew the doors off of Texas A&M 91-58. They went to Missouri and won 100-59. They also had a couple of ranked wins earlier in the year. This is kind of one of those spots that I would go, last year's South Carolina team, I'm probably not as concerned to the winner of Tennessee Vandy, but This is conference tournament basketball, and for me as a basketball fan, like the teams I'm looking at putting into Final Fours are the teams that are hitting the accelerator right now, and both of these teams are doing that.
100%, and they're both well coached. Speaking of UConn, Shea Ralph, the Vanderbilt coach, was Gino's assistant for, I think, 10 years, I believe. But regardless, this Vanderbilt team is really coming into its own. Like, a lot of people say, I know it's cheesy, but, like, it doesn't really matter how you play in November, it kind of matters how you're playing in March. I mean, obviously it does. But to a degree, I just think Vanderbilt's continuing to play its best basketball right now. And last time these two teams met, Michaela Blake scored a buzzer beater when Tennessee did not box out on a missed game-winning attempt. And I think it was like 0.3 seconds left or something crazy like that. Obviously, two in-state teams, rivalry, everything like that. I want to say that if Vanderbilt does win, it'll be the first time in program history that Vanderbilt has beat Tennessee twice in one season. So there's a lot on the line emotionally. There's obviously going to be really, like we're saying, high-level offense. So it's not a walk in the park of no matter, who South Carolina gets tomorrow.
Which one would you rather play if you're Don Staley?
I think Vanderbilt. I do. I just think that Dawn, knock on, if she's hearing this, she's probably knocking on wood, but, because she's totally listening to me right now. But I just think that South Carolina has done an incredible job shutting down, like, one key star. They did it with Arkansas's Izzy Higginbottom. Honestly, they did it twice against Madison Booker. I know people will disagree with me to some extent on the second game, but Georgia Amore, there's just, like, a good track record of not letting stars who produce, 30 points a game do that. So I do think that the Tennessee team is just a little bit more well-balanced and plays a very physical, tiring game. I think if Tennessee wins and South Carolina still beats Tennessee tomorrow, has, no issue getting away, they're going to be a lot more tired on Saturday than they would if they played Vanderbilt, just based on the pace of play.
That is an interesting angle because of the teams that have moved on to round two. Georgia, Oklahoma is the 5 seed. Mississippi State knocks off Mizzou yesterday, 75-55. High-scoring game there. They take on Ole Miss today. Florida gets by Auburn 60-50. They got Alabama. That's a quick team today. There's a lot of teams that can put up points, but the two teams, either one of which could become the Gamecocks' opponents tomorrow, I would argue, at least right now, are both playing the highest efficiency and highest pace offense. So it's not even that I'm going to sit here and go, oh, Tennessee could get them, Vandy could get them. Certainly could. But for me, it's more like, yeah, they're going to get into a track meet, and then they have probably the 4 seed Kentucky the next day. And that might be one of those teams that can go down low and bang with Chloe Kitts and kind of push the Gamecocks off the boards, which you had pointed out on the show all year long has kind of been a consistent bugaboo for this team.
Yeah, and honestly, I've been watching a lot of old South Carolina footage, and you do start to notice, like, at first, all of us were in agreement that, like, okay, South Carolina is able to win games without Ashlyn Watkins, but I think when they're playing these physical games and then you watch just every missed shot, it was in the hands of Watkins or Cardoso last year, and especially in tournament play, that stuff comes down to a win or loss potentially. So I do think that South Carolina is going to have a physical test no matter who they play in terms of height. So when you play a team like Tennessee who presses, who subs so frequently with their guards, that's just added pressure because guards aren't able to necessarily, help off and double team. There's just a lot of layers there. So there's a lot of basketball. Obviously, I don't think Dawn's guaranteeing that they're going to win no matter who they play tomorrow. So she isn't going to sit here and say, like, oh, we have to kind of rest or think about Saturday. Like, that's never going to be her MO. Just looking at it from that perspective, a lot of games in 3 days, you want to go as far as you can. If South Carolina's looking to win, I imagine that potentially Vanderbilt's just a little bit slower in terms of pace, but definitely still a team that can put up a lot of points.
Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate in studio today. It is our honor and privilege to have her here. If we're looking at this bracket, honestly, I think my answer probably is Kentucky, but that finals matchup, if the Gamecocks make it there, Texas down there, LSU, both of those teams have given South Carolina either a flat-out L or real good games. We know that LSU-South Carolina rivalry has gotten heated the last couple of years. If South Carolina got to handpick their opponent, assuming they get by the winner of Tennessee-Vandy, assuming they get by Kentucky, do they want Texas? Do they want LSU? Or are they maybe kind of hoping that somebody else in the bottom half of that bracket pulls an upset?
I think that if South Carolina is thinking about their tournament future, because let's be realistic, all three teams honestly are making the NCAA tournament. LSU, Texas, South Carolina do not need to win. That said, I do think that South Carolina, if they get Texas and beat Texas, that it's a huge gamble because Texas is the number one team in the country right now, and a lot of people forget that South Carolina beat them by 17 the first time they played because they're so just kind of stuck on the 4-point loss from early February. So I think if you're South Carolina, you trust your coaching, you trust your team, you want to play Texas, beat the number one team in the SEC tournament, get that 2-1 series advantage, because then that's going to help them for the incredibly high level of out-of-conference competition they're going to get. LSU is banged up. I just don't think in the committee's eyes a championship win over an LSU without Flau'jae Johnson is going to hold as much weight as a SEC tournament championship win over Texas, Madison Booker, Vic Schaefer. But again, that's, a loss could put them right back down to being a 2 seed in the tournament. So it's a gamble either way, but I'm maybe going South Carolina wants to try again with Texas.
Right now, my assumption, and I've been working under this assumption, and obviously it very well may change based on the results of the SEC Women's Tournament, Big 12 Women's Tournament, et cetera. My assumption right now is that Texas will be the number 1 overall seed, UCLA probably the number 2 seed, and then, depending on South Carolina not flaming out in this tournament, it'll be a race between them and USC to get the number 3 overall seed. The good news in the women's tournament is that South Carolina, as long as they have a 1 next to that name, will host their region, which is a massive advantage the men don't have. But I still think for the sake of hosting that regional and being able to kind of geographically with an incredible fan base, not have them traveling out to California to go play games, the importance is not in winning the conference. The important is making sure you get at the worst that number 3-1 seed.
Right. Yeah. At one point, I think it was after the UConn loss, they were the 2 seed in Spokane. Like, I can't imagine a worse place for South Carolina fans. I mean, like, a lot of people... Obviously, Birmingham is drivable. Like, South Carolina has one of the biggest fan bases right now. And so, kind of like you're saying, it's totally to its advantage if it's able to secure a spot in a drivable distance, considering how many fans travel for their games.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is a massive opportunity. So, Lulu Kesin, because we're going hot takes all the time. South Carolina winning this SEC tournament or not?
Yes.
I like that statement. Period, exclamation point, yes.
What were you expecting?
I thought Lulu was going to be like, hey, listen, real good Texas team, real good LSU team. Mulkey, Dawn Staley with a vibe, like maybe you never know. She just went with the flat-out capital Y, bold, italicize, and underline it, yes. What is it? Why?
I literally set myself up for like other team fans accounts to like clip this and
Yep.
clown me. But
Welcome to radio, baby.
Literally. LSU's banged up right now. Do I think that they can win without Flau'jae Johnson? I just think she's a instrumental part to the team. It's weird. I don't want to be the voice that kind of says this because I haven't heard her say it, but a lot of people are like, Kim Mulkey doesn't care about the SEC tournament. She's been public about that, and I haven't necessarily been around her saying that just because I'm new, so I don't want to necessarily be like, I'm not suggesting she's going to throw in the towel and not care. But I just think that even given the history with LSU, and I think LSU and Texas have some not bad blood, but they had a pretty close game way more recently than South Carolina LSU did in January. So I think whatever happened with LSU and South Carolina is in the past, where that's going to be a great game regardless, but I don't necessarily think, especially without Flau'jae playing. Texas, on the other hand, I think yes, they've been so dominant and they've been done incredibly well against SEC teams, but the SEC tournament is like no other. It's the hardest one in, recent years, I would argue. And so I just think that South Carolina is going to have the mental experience of the SEC tournament in their favor if it comes down to those two teams.
I think a lot of schools don't, and I think this is true on the men's side too. I think it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if we win the tournament, great. But at the end of the day, let's use it as a tool, as a resource to get us into the best spot in the national tournament. There's a couple of exceptions. Texas being able to come in and win the SEC in year one, I think, though, that banner would mean a lot to them. We will see how it plays out. The SEC women's tournament continues today, 11 a.m. Tennessee and Vanderbilt will tip. The winner of that game will square off noon tomorrow against the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News joining us in studio to break down a little women's hoops. You are the best. Thank you for coming out of your way to do this. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'll shout out my parents and probably my boyfriend's grandma, who also watches this, and my grandparents and everybody. They're all so great, so thank you.
Mama Lulu tagged me on the Instagram one day when you were on there. I was like, bang, she's my publicist now. Thanks, Mama Lulu Kesin.
I love that. Yeah, good for her. She's silly like that.
We will talk to you next week, and we may very well be on the verge of knowing some seeds in the big tournament at that point. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Lulu Kesin. When we come back, Rashad Beard, the host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us. We'll see if there's maybe any teams that put up players for trades, cut guys yesterday. Any of them might end up in Charlotte. We'll ask Rashad when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, let me get Lulu walked down. I'll get Rashad plugged up. We're back after this. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. Rashad Beard, what's up, fella?
What's going on, guys? I like
How you doing, big
Lulu.
dog?
She was cool, man. I was liking her vibe, man. Keep her.
Oker Duker said, man, stop bleeping with these crackers. Yeah, I've been called worse, Rashad.
I think you're more pasty than I am.
100%.
So, I mean, I'm going to go with you. You're more cracker than me.
I ain't seen the sunshine in 3 damn days. I'm so cracker, I'm breaking out Sheryl Crow quotes in here. What up to the PNP Army showing back up? You got a name for the base? You got a name for the viewers?
Man, I used to call them chat cats back in the day, man. I don't really have a name for them, man. They my guys though. They rock wherever I go, so it's dope. I love them.
I know. I'm in the chat. I see the boys. I like it. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Thank you again to Lulu Kesin from the Greenville News, popping by to talk SEC women's college basketball with us on the show. Very much enjoyed that conversation. Now we take it up to somebody who's almost as good looking as Lulu Kesin. The lovely Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us every Thursday at 8:40 to talk a little Big Cat football. What's up, fella?
Did you just call me lovely?
You're a lovely person, Rashad.
He did call you lovely.
Listen, I got called.
It's a little awkward.
I got
really
called
is.
a cracker in the chat. I'm going to make it as weird as I can for the next 24 minutes, pal.
Fair enough. Okay. I'll take it.
Oh, I'm busy writing up the cracker liners right now.
They're on the way. All right, Rashad Beard, let's dive right in, bud, because we're at a point now where it's not just Panther news and info that we're following. You guys got to be looking league-wide because we're just a couple of days away from free agent negotiations opening up. We got a bunch of players out there on the trade block, a bunch that are getting cut, et cetera, et cetera. We know Joey Bosa's out of Los Angeles. We know that Tyler Lockett got cut, DK Metcalf requesting a trade. Any of those guys that you think the Cats are in the mix for, or is there anybody else that maybe you guys are waiting on to find out if they will be available, either cut before free agency period or on the block when we get there? Kind of where's your head at in terms of eyeballs on players around the league that could be Carolina Panthers next year?
Yeah, this is such a tough, weird time of the year because everybody that gets cut or released, you want them, right? You want them on your team. Joey Bosa getting released was a shocker. And I mean, we are in need of a pass rusher. I know last year was not the best year for him. I think he had his lowest single season pass rush win rate last year. So it's, I don't know, maybe a change of scenery would do well for him, but that was very intriguing. I mean, you gotta at least be in on the deal to kind of see where it is with him. So I don't know, man. You gotta at least pick up the phone and call and see what the vibes are.
You've made Lonzo the happiest producer on earth.
Hey, listen. Also co-host. I am executive producer, by the way. Rashad and I are always vibing. So, I mean, it's no surprise that you were wrong and I was right. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
Yeah, you got to pick up the phone. You at least got to pick up the phone and see what the vibes are.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think it's worth a phone call, but here's the other problem you bump into. Max Crosby got his new deal yesterday. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, which effectively, we've been talking about, was Brock Purdy going to reset the quarterback market? Yeah, we got a market reset. It's defensive end, and while Joey Bosa's missed a lot of games the last 2 or 3 years, that's still going to drag everybody on that sliding scale up. To me, Rashad Beard, and I don't know if you'll go the same way with the Panthers or just the NFL philosophy in general, all of a sudden, drafting edge rushers has just become the value, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a way to look at it as well. You have to look at the balance of your cap and where you're spending the money, right? It's really easy to do when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. That's why that Super Bowl window is so important because, you know, when it's Bryce Young's time, the bulk of the money is going to go in that direction. So when you have the opportunity to potentially land a big-time position like a defensive end in the draft, you got to do it. So if you can get an edge rusher, so be it. I mean, I'm here for it. But at the same time, I do think Bosa is a bit of a long shot. You're paying Clowney You're already paying some guys. You paid Wanham a little bit, albeit not the same. There's not massive money, but there is money involved in those positions. So I do think Wanham, I do think Bosa is a bit of a stretch, but you at least got to try. You never know. And we've seen guys picked up for nothing, and you're like shocked as to why, hey, we couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So you at least got to try it. But the other two names you did mention were very interesting in Tyler Lockett and DK. Obviously, we have a connection to that organization. Dan Morgan and Dave Canales came from that Seattle tree. And, Canales was a wide receiver coach at some point in that system. And so you got to wonder if DK Metcalf could be a call they make, right? They've got to pick up the phone, talk to Seattle. When those relationships when you have a relationship with Snyder and those guys over there, and Dan Morgan knows it makes the conversations a lot easier. And so those connections are important. So I'm not saying that we're going to go out and get DK, but I that's one I would definitely pick up the phone on and say, DK, what's it going to take? Now, the only thing about DK Metcalf is he's on the final year of his rookie of his contract, not his rookie deal, but you got to pay him after that. And so that's very, very important. You're looking in the range of 25, 30 million potentially per year. So that's something you got to consider as well. That's why also wide receiver is a premium position. If you could draft it well, then you don't have to worry about paying those guys. But very interesting names out on the market.
I agree with that, but I would also point out, you draft it well, you're set for a long time. It's real hard to draft wide receiver well, man. Like, it's real. It might be it and probably corner, I think, are probably the two positions that are the most difficult to get right via the draft, which is why I like going vets. I'm also I love DK Metcalf for you guys. I think he'd absolutely be a dog on the outside. Lockett might be the play for two reasons. Number one, you mentioned the connection. He was coached by Dave Canales, which is obviously the big thing. He was there with Dan Morgan, which is the big thing. Production level came down the last couple of years, and I heard somebody on one of the national shows last night, DK, Tyler Lockett coming off the least productive year since 2017. And that's true, but I would also point out it came 2 years after Dave Canales left that system and went down to Tampa Bay. There's a lot of question marks there. It was also the least productive year I won't say least productive year of Geno Smith's career, but certainly a down year from the year he had under Canales before he took off. I think Lockett's in play here, not because he's bad, because he's not Rashad, but I think a lot of people don't see an instability in Seattle that I see right now. I still think that guy's got number one potential. It's probably not a long term, probably like 2-3 more years out of the deal. But for the growth of Bryce Young, that might be the right play.
So what you're saying is you want to turn our wide receiver group into the AARP club because Lockett is getting up there, and we've already got Thielen. So I think Lockett is a bit of a stretch. I mean, it makes sense, right? Your points are valid. I think that, the connection is there. Canales coached him, but I don't think we're going to add more age to the wide receiver core. I think it's going to get younger, if anything, especially when you have a guy like Thielen on the roster. You've already got somebody to coach. We don't need a bunch of coaches. We need some dogs. And let's go out there and get some, whether it's via free agency or the draft. We do have to get better and improve in that area. I just don't think Lockett is the guy I'm going to get.
What if I gave him to you on a 1-year deal? 1 year, $14 million.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show, and the Fan Upstate does so every Thursday at 8 a.m. All right, so we've talked about some of the guys that are available right now, either trade or cut. Has there been any rumors in the wind, any smoke on the horizon that Carolina's got anything else cooking behind the scenes before we get to free agent negotiation here in about 6 days?
Yeah, word on the street is that, Javon Holland, former safety from Miami, is a guy that we're looking at. Obviously, we have only Damani Richardson signed as a safety, and he had a solid year, being an undrafted guy, but I don't think we want to roll out the season with him being our starter. I think he's got a couple more development years to go before he becomes really becomes what he can be. So I think Javon Holland is a guy very solid in Miami. I think between us and the Titans, that's the word on the street, is that it's between us and the Titans. I think he's going to get a solid deal. And I do think that that's probably going to be the most likely, probably first signing for the Carolina Panthers and once free agency starts. So I think, again, safety is a huge position to need. You let guys like Xavier Woods walk. You let guys like, Fuller, all these guys that we signed last year, they're out of here. Jordan Fuller, Nick Scott, Sam Franklin, all those guys could potentially be up out of here. So we got to get a safety bad. So the word on the street, Javon Holland is going to be the guy in play for us. I have not heard of any other rumors at this time, but I think that's the biggest one.
Could I talk you into making a play for Darius
Slay.
I think that's interesting. Slay being released. I mean, he's talented. I think that I don't know, man. You could talk me into it for sure. Slay's talented, bro. So very, very good cornerback. I can see that happening. I can certainly see that happening. I like Slay a lot. I just don't know. I don't know if we're gonna go younger. The cornerback. You got JC. You're gonna sign JC to an extension. So I don't know if you're gonna pay 2 cornerbacks.
Is that a guarantee? Is that a guarantee JC Horn gets his up?
Yeah, that's certainly locked in, bro. I don't see by any stretch of the mind we let him play on that 5th-year option. He's definitely going to get extended for sure. 1,000%.
I don't disagree.
And I expect it to happen like very, very soon.
I agree. I honestly, I wouldn't be sure. I'll be more shocked if it's not done before the season starts up than if it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be a good deal. I think it's going to be a very solid deal. JC needs to get locked in for sure. I think he's going to be very, very good for us in the long term.
Rashad Beard joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate, talking to little Carolina Panther off-season football. Didn't get a chance yet to talk to you, Shad, as the NFL Draft Combine took place up in Indianapolis, Indiana through this past weekend. You guys go live. You do full combine breakdowns of any and everybody that could end up on the roster all the way through round 7. So give me a couple of guys that jumped off the page at you.
Man, yeah. So obviously the biggest one is going to be Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, edge rusher. We just talked about potentially drafting one. That's a guy 1,000%. He's a little bit raw, but very good run defender. Doesn't have the sack production you would like to see coming out of college, but I think he's very talented, can be coached up, and I think he'd be very, very, very solid. Another guy, Nick Emanwari out of South Carolina. He had the greatest combine that you could ever have. I mean, I don't think you could draw up a better combine than he had. He went out there and knocked it completely out the park. Very, very good across the board. So I think he earned himself some money, 1,000%.
That dude bumped up about 15 picks with his combine. For real.
Yeah, he did. And I think I was looking at him in the second. I certainly think he worked his way into the first off of that combine performance. And I know it's the Underwear Olympics, but money can be made in the combine. And Nick Emanwari is one of those guys that is going to prove that, because he worked his way up into the first round for sure off that performance, 1,000%. Couple other guys, Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia, very good combine for him. A couple of guys we didn't get a chance to see, like Jalen Walker. I know he's dealing with the injury. I know we talked about him potentially last show. We talked about him potentially being the pick. Did not get a chance to see him. He's going to wait till the pro day, and I don't know if we're going to get a chance to see him at all because he's nursing that injury. So running back Brashad Tootin, I think he is somebody that you can keep an eye on. He's a former North Carolina Aggie. Shout out to my alma mater. He also transferred to Virginia Tech. He had a really good performance for the running backs. Darian Porter, a cornerback, had a good performance. There were some good performances. One thing about the combine is that I hate to see is that guys get invited and they don't necessarily participate. That definitely takes a position away from somebody that could show up and show out there. So I hate to see that, but very good performances out there, man. I like a lot of things I saw in the combine.
All right, let me give you 2 names real quick. Get your thoughts on both of them before we run to a break. Rashad Beard. We've talked about this a bunch on the show. Obviously, the 2 names that Panther fans here in the upstate keep throwing at us are the tight end out of Penn State, Tyler Warren. We pointed out earlier, you boys got Jatavian still on that roster. He got banged up last year, but he was growing. You could see the upward trajectory before that injury, but Tyler Warren's kind of a big physical stud. And then the name that got thrown at me last night, and I kind of had to scratch the chin a little bit because I don't think it's the right pick. But then also I'm like, I kind of think he would fit right into the Dave Canales offense, and that's the running back out of Boise State, Ashton Jeanty, who, from what I can tell, is going to be flirting inside that top 10, right around where you guys are picking at number 8.
Yeah, he is flirting, but I'm going to have to reject him because if we take that running back at 8, given all the needs that we have, I think Panther Nation will riot. I don't think that's definitely – I mean, I like Jeanty as a player. I think he's going to be a good fit somewhere, just not with the Carolina Panthers. I like him. I think he's got really good tape. Very good player. I just don't think he's the guy for Carolina at this time. We have bigger needs on the defensive side of football, and I just don't think running back is it. Tyler Warren, I like a lot. I do think Tyler Warren is going to go probably top 15 for sure. Canales had a really good quote about Warren. So I think that's kind of where the buzz came from for Tyler Warren with the Panthers. I can see it because we are lacking at tight end depth, and we're letting Tommy Tremble test the market. So I do think there's an opening for Tyler Warren. I just don't know that, again, given all the needs that we have, I just don't think he's going to be the pick. Just my personal pick. I wouldn't be mad at Warren, though. Be honest with you, I would not be mad at Warren. I would be more mad at Genty.
That's fair. That was going to be my question. Is it more of we're missing out on bigger needs? I mean, if you get to 8. And Tyler Warren, who I do think is clearly one of the best, I would say probably 6 players in this draft overall. If he's 8, that to me feels like a BPA pick. But you guys have enough needs that the folks who are draft needs over skills guys, I think, have a good argument this year. Tyler Warren is a guy that you can line up at tight end, but you can put him in the wing. You can put him in the slot. You can, if you need him, you can put him up in a fullback. He's that physical. To me, I'm almost drafting him almost like a Taysom Hill without the quarterbacking ability. I think he can be that kind of athlete. Does that add to value to make him an 8 pick?
It certainly does. And again, when you look at Canales, he's done well with tight ends too. So I know that if he were brought here and we were able to draft him, I think he would do an excellent job. I just don't know. I just can't see us passing up on a guy. I don't know. I just can't see us passing on like a DT or an edge. I just can't see it. I just cannot see it given all the issues that we have on defense. But I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad at Warren at all. I wouldn't be mad. And I think we have enough issues that you can darn near make any position best player available, and it would make sense. That's just the way our roster is configured. So I wouldn't be mad at Warren at all.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us every Thursday at 8:40 to talk Carolina Panther football next week. Looking forward to it because next week we talk rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is where the meat and potatoes are. Rashad, appreciate you, big dog. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you as always.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Our pleasure. The legendary Rashad Beard. Follow the Panther Nation podcast on X at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, get subscribed, liked up, turn the notifications on YouTube because the boys are going to be going live a lot. When we come back, Hatin Ass Mario from the BetMGM Network joins us. We'll talk about all the moves that got made around the NFL yesterday. Before that, Lonzo reads a sports flash here on the Cracker Sports Show.
All Cracker, all the time. Clemson basketball program is one step closer to a top 10 ranking with a 78-69 win over Boston College last night. Tigers were led by Jaden Zachary's 21 points, Chase Hunter's 18, and Ian Shefflin's 13 and 8 boards. Clemson out-rebounded the Eagles 43-26 in a win. The Tigers will wrap the regular season Saturday at home against Virginia Tech. Alabama is on a 2-game losing streak after dropping a 99-94 game against Florida last night. Gators' Alex Condon had 27 and 10 boards, and Walter Clayton Jr. added 22 and 8 assists. In the win, Florida moves to 26 and 4. Tune in Saturday at 8 p.m. as Furman Paladins take on the Samford Bulldogs in the first round of the SoCon basketball tournament. It's Furman versus Samford right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. It's us, it's the fan, upstate. think we changed our names to Saltine and Ritz. Sorry, you're Saltine because Ritz is really close to my last name. So I mean, so dibs on Ritz. Although Ritz is not really, it's kind of a
that ain't really
tan.
I mean, it's a cracker, but it ain't.
It's still a cracker, but I mean it's kind of a tan cracker.
Yeah.
So I'm claiming Ritz. I don't know any other white cracker other than just a Saltine.
I do, Mario. Hey-o!
Oh! 10 out of 10.
Oh man, what's up, big dog?
Nothing much, man. How we doing?
Doing good, pal. Doing good. Stayed up late last night for no reason.
That's true, Roadmaster. But here's what I'll do: I'll go out in the sun for a little bit, and I'll look just like a Ritz. Or I get me some of that tan in a bottle. I can go orange. It's been done. Some people are rocking that right now.
It's very fashionable right now.
Depends what you're going for.
Rob Brown, I would like to ask Mario a couple of Fight Club questions before we're done.
You know what I asked Mario last night, and you can work this in there. I asked Mario last night if I could talk him into, because we did, probably 10 minutes at the end of the show on the Cena turn last night. I asked Mario if I could talk him into he can use my Peacock account, watching the WrestleMania, and joining a Discord watch party with us. And he gave me the most straddling the fence answer of all time. So I'll let you have the honors of trying to convince him further.
What? It's snowing in Boone?
Snow in Boone.
You know what I'm glad? I'm really glad
that it's not snowing here.
That we're not in Boone.
You're doing a real good job of working that clip that I love so much right up there into good morning clip territory, Lonzo. Yeah, that one. That's the one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The fourth, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. It is the Fan Upstate, Rob Brown, the great Lonzo, and you join us on our live stream, facebook.com/the Fan Upstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on X, the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Thanks to Lulu Kesin, who joined us at 8 o'clock and talked some women's basketball with us. Thanks to Rashad Beard, who joined us in the last segment, talked some Carolina Panther football with us, and now we welcome into the show a young man who is the executive producer of BetMGM tonight on the BetMGM network. You can hear that every weeknight from 7 to 11 p.m. on this and find Odyssey stations everywhere. And I'm not saying that you should listen to the show tonight and tomorrow because they might have the sexiest guest host of all time filling in for the next two shows, but they kind of do.
So Mario's taking over the lead role?
Hatin Ass Mario, the executive producer and not guest host of BetMGM tonight, joining us here on the show. What's up, fella?
What is up? What is going on? Love that little ad lib right there by Lonzo. What can I say? 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
I am award winning.
10 out of 10, unlike that haircut, Mario. It's not going
okay. It's gotten better. It's gotten better.
It's gotten better, but it ain't gotten good. There's a difference.
Have him take his hat off. You know he's wearing a hat for a reason.
Yeah, take your hat off.
Look at the flow is great. I'm starting to get the curl going. Like I'm borderline. I'm working my way towards.
Yeah, but his curl takes work. Mario's is natural. So I mean, you know.
It's all natural, baby.
Let's get into some stuff. Now I got plenty of NFL questions to throw at you. We got to talk about Joey Bosa getting cut after 9 years in Los Angeles, California, from the Thunderbolts, the team that you cover for the Odyssey podcast and network. We got the Seattle Seahawks, who are just imploding on themselves. Tyler Lockett gets cut. DK Metcalf asked for a trade like 10 minutes later. Totally unconnected, though. By the way, we'll get into that here in a few minutes. I want to ask you who it is that you think, in your opinion, from the outside looking in, maybe the Carolina Panthers might be interested in on the free agent market. I want to get to all of that. But last night on the show on BetMGM tonight, in the final hour, I brought up, because I wanted to and you couldn't stop me, the John Cena heel turn at Elimination Chamber last Saturday, and asked Hatin Ass Mario if I could get him to watch the Showcase of the Immortals. WrestleMania coming up in just a little over a month. And then Lonzo said, I have some questions for Hatin Ass Mario in that direction. So I, for the benefit of all humanity, am going to take a step back. And I'm going to see if I can get Lonzo to do what I could not and get Mario convinced to join us in the wrestling world.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to ask you an MMA question. I am going to ask you an MMA question. Dana White announced yesterday John Jones is finally going to fight Tom Aspinall. And the winner will possibly face Alex Pereira. What do you think about that?
I think a lot of that depends on what happens this weekend. If Pereira takes out Magomed, and it's another one where it's just an absolute mismatch, you can tell right away who the better fighter is. I think that makes complete sense. He's gone through everyone in that division. Aspinall's clearly the best heavyweight right now. Probably arguably
better than John Jones?
I think he's at this point in John Jones's career. Where he's right now.
Are you convinced? Can you convince me to put forth the money that it costs for a pay-per-view? Because I always watch John Jones just to watch him lose. Okay. That this time it's going to happen. John Jones is going to lose.
So John Jones, and he said this before, the way he kind of excels in fighting and strategy and getting ready for fights is he watches a crap ton of film, which not a lot of fighters do because they don't want to. A lot of guys change their strategies based on each fight, right? So you don't want to watch too much of this guy versus Stipe because he's going to fight different from Stipe versus how he fights you. But John Jones is unique in that way where he just really grinds the film. You look at Tom Aspinall, there's literally not enough film on him because every single fight ends in the first round. It ends in literally seconds. And it's just that person's out like a light. You take one hit from him, you're down. He probably has the best knockout power that we have seen since Francis Ngannou went on his run a couple years ago. And then we just never got that fight between him and John Jones. On top of that, Aspinall's grappling is very, very advanced. And it's very, very good. And if you go to shoot on him, you're coming right back up. You are not going to be able to take him down. He's very strong. And John Jones is going to have his hands full because he's not going to be able to take him down right away. He's going to have to spar with him. And if you spar with Aspinall, you got to get ready to take a couple, and you got to be ready to stand tall. No one's been able to stand tall against Aspinall. And now you're asking John Jones, at this age, with all the damage he's already taken in the UFC and throughout his career, against Hall of Fame after Hall of Fame fighters, say who, the name, he's taking him out. But now at this point, he's going to take on the guy that has walked through everyone, that has looked absolutely invincible, and that is in the prime age and prime of his career. I don't know if that's going to go John Jones's way. It's going to be the hardest fight.
As a guy who works for a betting show that airs on this station 7 to 11, I believe, Monday through Friday, would you put money on Aspinall defeating John Jones?
Yes, I'd put on it right away.
Wow.
I wouldn't even think twice about it. He would take him out. I really go ahead.
I was going to say, I've heard you don't do real well on some things like lost bets and things like. So I don't know whose word I should take on that. But
yeah, Mario, talk to me about that.
Propaganda. That's what that is.
Okay, you know what? I agree with you. It's probably propaganda. I have one more, and I'm just going to back away. This is actually a Rob Brown question. Also, TKO announced it's going into boxing with the Saudis. Can TKO save boxing?
I think it can, because if there's one thing that they've done, and I believe Dana White will be really heavily involved in this, is when fans want to fight in the UFC, I would say he bats about 85% in getting it. And in boxing, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been like the problem with boxing, is when you want like a really big fight between two guys, it doesn't happen. And if it happens, it takes years upon years to get it done, right? In the UFC, if you want something to go, you're going to get it. Very rare instances do you not. Like, we never got Francis versus John Jones. That was very rare. We really wanted this John Jones versus Aspinall. Now we're going to get it. That's awesome, right? It's very, hard in boxing because everyone's kind of their own separate business, and they're not like all together, which I think this would put everyone all together, and that could really, really work. And like promotion's got to be better for boxing. Right? It's never good when you ask someone down the street who the best boxer is in the world, and they're like, maybe that YouTuber, and you're just like, okay, now we're really Now we're really struggling.
Mario, I've been working with you for 4.5 years, and that's the single best sports take you've ever had. Top to bottom, left to right, up and down. A league is a great thing for boxing. There needs to be more of it, but it is going to have billions behind it, or else there be some already.
It does.
Which this does.
Yeah,
I
does.
despise Saudi Arabia.
Which is why I wanted your take on
Yep,
this.
despise it. But I also understand that as much as I hate where it's coming from, a league is what can save boxing, A, and B, the fact that we've allowed boxing to devolve to the fact that, as I pointed out, one of the Paul Bros versus a grandpa is the biggest pay-per-view fight of the last 5 years is an absolute joke and disgrace. So thank you. Good take.
And you can add more incentives in those fights, too, to make sure guys aren't just point fighting. Because point fighting in boxing is, I'm sorry, it's extremely boring.
No,
it's
I
not
agree.
fun to watch.
I agree entirely. I like that take. All right, let's get to some NFL discussion here with Mario Herron of the BetMGM Network. Let's start with the Joey Bosa thing. 9 years. I asked you about this last night on BetMGM tonight. I'll do it again here. On one hand, you pointed that out. That broke while we were on the air, and my immediate reaction was like, whoa, what the hell is that? But then you pointed out that it maybe, especially if you're a Chargers fan you've been following, maybe not as big of a surprise. So instead of asking you about the Chargers' decision to move on from Joey Bosa, I'll ask you a different question, which is the Panthers need a defensive edge rusher on the outside, especially since, as Roadmaster pointed out, all of a sudden there's some smoke in the wind that maybe Jadeveon Clowney ends up getting traded for a late-round draft pick in order to ease up some money there. Is Bosa a look worth considering for the Carolina Panthers, or do you think there's maybe a handful of guys that are second, third round draft picks that might be a little bit better due to the youth, the rookie contract, and hopefully not as many injuries?
You just said the last part. The injury factor with Bosa is very, very big, and it's an issue. Every time he took a step forward, I would say in the past 3 seasons with the Chargers, it was 2 steps back because of an injury. And if you're the Carolina Panthers, I don't think that's worth it. I think Bosa is more perfect fit for a team like the Niners have been as like this tag that's going with them because his brother's there, but also they can afford to go, hey, play these 2 snaps, next 4 take off. And I don't think the Panthers just can't afford to do that with them. A win now team seems like the more logical option for Bosa. And look, he's an exceptional player, especially early in his career. He was a lightning in a bottle, like he was amazing. But the past couple seasons, man, it has been he's either on the field and you don't realize it, or he's not, he's injured. And it's very, very tough. Look at his tackling grade going back on PFF, like the past 4 seasons. It's not good. Like, look at the run defense that he gets. It's not good. His sacks have gone exceptionally down. It got to a point this past year, Rob, that when he would get a sack, it wasn't like Bosa does it again. It's like, oh my God, I forgot Bosa. We have him. And I feel terrible because, he's a great Charger. He's a great player. And, from a far away, he seems like he's not a bad guy, but he has just underperformed recently, and he's a highly paid man. And it was time for them to cut the ties and wish all the best for him. But if I was the Panthers, no, get younger. I don't think that's the right guy that you needed in your locker room. I think a different direction would be maybe an Eagles, Niners, some type of team that's in this moment now.
Hatin Ass Mario from the BetMGM Network. All right, let's talk about the 2 cats headed out of the Seattle Seahawks organization. The Seahawks announced yesterday that after a decade of service, they're going to be moving on from Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver. They were apparently already on the phone, maybe not convinced to move DK Metcalf, but more saying, hey, if anybody's going to make us an offer we can't refuse, we would be willing to part. Metcalf then yesterday, allegedly unconnected to the release of Tyler Lockett, said that he wants to trade both of those guys now available. Lockett via signing, DK via trade. Obviously, DK Metcalf, the better of those 2 receivers at this point. I made the argument to to Rashad Beard, our Panther guest in the last segment, that I kind of like the idea of Lockett. Yeah, he had a down year last year, but so did the whole Seattle franchise. Like, of course his numbers dropped off. I think that's one that I'm more willing to put the blame for that on Seattle than on Tyler Lockett. I think he could actually be a value signing. At 32, he's a guy I only want in Charlotte on like a 1 max 2-year deal, but that's a guy I can bring in, bring a bunch of vet experience, help Bryce Young deliver, help him grow and develop with a true down-the-field wide receiver. and also not have to pop a draft pick on finding another young wide receiver while I have Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker both in the mix. Either one of those guys on the radar, in your opinion, for Carolina? Or is there anybody else that you think makes sense for those two cats?
The Lockett makes sense. I think DK, right now, I believe they said Chargers, Texans, and Patriots were all in that business of getting him. The thing that makes sense to the Panthers for a Lockett on a one-year deal is that this receiver class has not been touted as a great one, which is kind of very unique to what we've seen the past couple of years, where every single class, it seemed there was 4 guys that could really hit for you, where this year it's a little bit lower, right? We're not really promoting it as, watch out, this guy's a true wide receiver 1. And you mentioned it, Lockett's kind of been around the block. He's 32, but he's still got a lot of explosiveness in him. And he still can be that big threat for Bryce Young down the field. And he can teach Legette a lot of things. He's been in Super Bowls, multiple of them. He's been in bad offenses. He's been in good ones. And I don't want to take away from anything from him or DK from this past season because, like you said, it was a disaster of a season. Yesterday, we were doing the Bull Crew podcast. You can find out where you get your podcast. And someone brought up well, DK has a bad attitude. And I remember thinking, I would have a pretty damn bad attitude too if my team was that bad last year. And I'm looking at like, the Niners are having a down year. We could really take advantage of this division. The Rams, even though they won it and they're a couple plays away, at multiple times last year, they were looking like they were going to give up the division. They never like really held the lead. There were some moments of instability. You had a chance, and it was just a year from hell, and it didn't look great. And you're stuck with Geno Smith, who's a solid quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that's going to take you anywhere besides a first-round exit in the playoffs. I wouldn't take anything away from that season last year. Lockett, I think, is a really viable option for the Panthers. DK, I think he's a lock for the Chargers or the Pats. I think asking for a first and a third for him, okay, Seattle, we'll see where that gets you. I think that's going to come down a little bit. But with how old he is and what he's kind of looking for, I really think New England or the Los Angeles Chargers are going to be 2 places he ends up being.
All right, let me ask you about one more before we let you go. I don't know why it's bothering me so much, but this whole narrative that's being built around Shedeur Sanders after the combine, that he's cocky, he's arrogant, he's over the top, like, it's kind of driving me up a wall. And I look at it and I go, okay, there's a couple of things at play here. Number one, this dude is Deion Sanders' kid. Shocking to everyone that maybe there's a little bit of Coach Prime in the DNA of one Shedeur Sanders. The second thing is, the dude's been told for 2 years now he's this year's number 1 overall draft pick. I don't know if that's going to turn out to be true or not, but he's heard that for 2 years. For him to show up and act like it doesn't really blow my mind. Number 3, I have heard 100 quarterbacks over the past handful of years say, yeah, I'm coming to change a franchise. I'm coming to win. I'm coming to be him, whatever. Freaking Ryan Tannehill said that going into the draft. And nobody said, oh, he's arrogant, he's cocky. Like, is this a change in philosophy around the mentality of young quarterbacks? Is this a bunch of smoke screens to try to talk the Giants out of drafting him number 1 overall? Or do you think he's worthy of a top 10 pick? Because I know a bunch of guys in the biz who don't think that they would pick him inside the top 10 or 15 picks.
I think he's worth a top 10 pick for teams that are pretty desperate for the QB position. Like for the Raiders, I don't get why you wouldn't take him. Well, what else are you going to get out there? What else is better than that? I think Cleveland Browns are probably a lock to take Cam Ward there. But with Shedeur, the thing you mentioned it, he is Deion's kid, and he's been in the spotlight since what? He was 16 years old? Because of that last name and who his dad is and how good of a football player he is. Yeah, no crap that by the age 22, he's going to be a little cocky and he's going to be a little arrogant. He's been around NFL guys his whole life. He knows this business. It's just not something new to him that's going to like really shock him, right? And also, I think that we're overlooking, he's a really tough guy. Look at all those plays in Colorado. Look at that O-line. That O-line was brutal, and he would get just absolutely smoked. And guess who would pop back up right away? Shedeur Sanders. He's had to deal with a lot in his college career, and he kept getting on top of it. He has a great arm. I think his decision-making as a quarterback's pretty solid dealing with what he had. His receiver talent at Colorado, take away Travis Hunter, not very good. Like, maybe me out there running routes would do them some good. It wasn't great. Sanders is worthy of a top 10 pick if you're QB desperate. the talent level's there. I think he's going to be professional in the building. I think it's just smokescreen stuff. And we get it all the time. And, watch out when in a couple weeks some player's going to sky up for some random reason because he has a random good pro day. And you're like, all right, go watch the film. Even though he's a good athlete, he still kind of stinks.
I think Shedeur Sanders is probably the most accurate of the quarterbacks, and I include Jackson Dart, who I think is going to be pretty solid here. There's one thing, which is the decision-making process, but as you pointed out, the guy's running for his damn life every time he touched a football at Colorado, so of course he's going to make some bad decisions under pressure. We will talk more about that as we move forward towards the draft, just a touch over 50 days away. Mario Herron is the executive producer of BetMGM Tonight, which you can hear on this and find Odyssey stations every weekday night from 7 till 11 p.m. I will be sitting in with Mario, guest hosting that show the next 2 nights. Hatin Ass one. Thank you very much. You're the best, buddy. See you in like 2 hours, it feels like.
See you literally in 2 hours. And Ruffy, knock out the King Green this weekend, Lonzo. Write it down. UFC 313. Get excited.
I will write it down. I can't spell those names, but I will write it down.
Oh, trust me. Every time I do my card, I always have to put all how to pronounce it because, boy, those names are hard.
I will tick it off on the bet slip on Saturday, and if it doesn't hit, Tuesday at 8:20 is going to be a segment for you, bud.
That's fine. Look forward to it.
Hatin Ass Mario joins us every Thursday at 9 o'clock to talk about stuff and then some more stuff. Appreciate you, big fella. Talk to you next week, buddy.
Love you guys.
You're the best. Hatin Ass Mario joining us here on the show. It's Thursday, and you know what that means when we come back. Fight Club with the great one, Lonzo. We talk about, in my opinion, maybe the second biggest heel turn of all time. Maybe third. That one time Marty Jannetty tried to run away by diving through a plate glass window. That was disappointing. That what a heel turn that was for Marty Jannetty. Former tag team partner of mine, by the way. Back after this, the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, last reading. We're back with Fight Club. Stay right there, please, and thank you.
Well, welcome into the Fight Club, talking all things in the squared circle, in the ring, in the Walmart parking lot, because, fights rarely happen in Walmart.
We haven't done a good street fight breakdown in a while.
We have not. There's been some, though. There's been
a few.
Yeah. Got to let those mount up, and an exceptional one has to stand out enough for us to break it down on the stream. It's a couple crackers talking sports. That's what we're doing. All right, before we get to the big time heel turn of John Cena, Raw only had 4 matches Monday night. You paid for that ticket. Is that good? Are you going to a wrestling match, whether it's WWE, whether it's AEW, whether it's TNA, whether it's a local indie show, which we have those around here? How many matches are you paying for? Are you paying to watch the wrestlers, or are you paying for the entire show?
Okay, I have a couple of thoughts. First and foremost, any local independent organizations that want a couple of mouthpieces to come in, you got a wrestler that needs to be trained on how to talk, call your boy, all right? Call your boys. We're willing to do it. We'll come in. We'll valet. We'll talk. We'll be the heels. We'll be the faces. We don't care. Second thing, wrestling is a twofold entertainment spectrum. It is wrestling, but it's also stories. And to me, even as a guy who, when AEW was getting going and it was in its prime, unfortunately it's not right now, the reason I liked it was wrestlers who were wrestling, and everything was based around that. The WWE was always the one that based itself around stories, and those stories concluded with wrestling matches, which is fine as well. If you give me what are we at, 3-hour card now that has 4 matches on it, as long as you are giving me something compelling, and there are people who jump on a mic and they're compelling as hell, and there are people that you are trying to make compelling and it just ain't working because it's not their bag. If I am sports entertained, I am happy. You could have a 2-fight WrestleMania card, but if there are brawls going on in the back and I got Punk out here calling out John Cena for selling the kids a bunch of bull, okay, I'm entertained. I'm in. I watch 2.5-hour movies where nobody ever throws a punch and I can be entertained. Just entertain me. And right now, WWE is doing a good job of that.
Wait, they make movies where people don't throw a punch?
I know, it's weird.
It is
I believe they call them rom-coms.
Or Oscar winners, probably. All right, so the biggest heel turn in some people's lifetimes, because there are some people out here who are wrestling fans who don't remember Hulk Hogan. Speaking of Hulk Hogan, did an interview with Sports Illustrated where he
Let me guess, he lied and put himself over.
He loves every bit of this. He loves the fact that The Rock's involved, which also always makes it a big deal. And he thinks they're doing it right, but he says it all comes down to what Cena does now.
Yeah.
Which he's absolutely right. So you're going to have to agree with Hulk Hogan in this. It all depends on what Cena does now. I just saw a report and a picture of Cena being bald, that they're trying to change his look completely. And since he's balding anyway, he went in and I say he goes back to crew cut big time, because they can put a wig on him when he's in Hollywood, or where's he filming now? Mongolia, I think he said. I don't know if that's real or not. I don't know what he's filming in Mongolia unless there's another Fast and Furious
56.
Yeah, there might be another Fast and Furious movie. By the way, the majority of those are good. I don't care what you say.
No, I don't disagree that they are.
No, cars can't do that, but that's okay. It's a movie.
Fun action flick.
Yeah.
The only spot that fun action flicks lose me is when they start taking themselves seriously. Fast and the Furious has done the opposite. It gets progressively more. We did Cars in space.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're in space. That works.
I'm here.
That works.
Yeah,
they're
I'm
not
here.
gonna.
As long as you don't take yourself seriously and you lean into the silly of it, I'm all in. Now, if they decide to go back and try to do because I think the Fast and the Furious franchise ends with them trying to do like a genuine serious send-off, which is fine. But if you're going to do that, don't do truck shooting grappling hooks to skyscrapers 1.5 blocks away and swinging with a perfect trajectory to land in a building. That's fun and goofy, and I'm all in. That's the only take I have about the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Proof that John Cena is a good actor, the fact that he pulled off being Vin Diesel's brother so well. I mean, I believed it, that the resemblance was there and everything. So,
yeah, for sure.
So John Cena's turn.
John Cena.
Does he come back with new gear, new music, which a lot of people are hoping for? Does he cut the hair? What's going to go on here? And the biggest question for me is anybody else going to join the Soulless Club? Has anybody else already sold their soul or on their way to selling their soul to Dwayne?
Here's the thing. Ordinarily, this is a spot where I'd be like, yeah, give me one more, one more guy in there. Maybe one, maybe two more if they make sense. I don't want them to here. Here's the thing. This is, and yeah, a little bit of fantasy booking. What sells me on this team up here is what? Rock went to Hollywood. Rock became the world's biggest star. Rock comes back. He wasn't able to win. He goes to the Soul Cell. Who does he sell it to? Another guy who for years and years and years said, I'm never leaving this business. This is where I made my home. I'll do some acting, but I'm a wrestler first, and I'm blah, 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 blah. And then what did John Cena do? He went and became probably like the 4th or 5th biggest movie star in the world out in Hollywood. They make sense as a tandem because they're two guys who, in the world of kayfabe, sold out wrestling to go be actors and are coming back to just come back, take the place away from a bunch of guys who still wrestle 24/7. That's the selling point. I don't know anybody else that I could put in that and make it make sense. So I think you leave these two. You've got enough going on with a bunch of side characters that you can work a bunch of different angles to it. But if you start adding guys to it, you end up, what I think is the comparison, Zoe, was when the NWO started adding 9 new members every single Nitro. And it went for the point that this was the most shocking turn and faction in the history of wrestling to a year and a half later, there's so many guys in it. It's really like, okay, so it's Sting versus everybody is what this is. I don't need it to get there, even if it would make sense with Dwayne being the boss.
By the way, Sting pulled it off. And if you want to meet Sting, he's going to be at South Carolina Comic-Con April 5th and 6th.
I got my Sunday ticket.
So look forward to meeting Sting for that. So
last year he's wearing face paint, by the way. So
yes,
your last chance to meet him in the gear, man.
If it's not a faction unless you add another guy, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you got to add one more guy.
No, you don't. Why do you have to make it a faction? It doesn't have to be a faction. It'd just be two guys who have all the power versus everybody else on the roster who wants to not let them have it.
Add one more guy.
Why?
CM Punk.
Why? Wait.
CM Punk, after all the stuff he said, by the way, well written, he wants to, his dream is to be in the main event of WrestleMania. That's all he said. Now, will that favor come into play?
The main events are booked.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are
Unless
they?
you're going to make them a triple threat.
Yes, you can absolutely make it a triple threat.
Here's the only way you do it. The only way you're going to do that is to have Punk basically do to Cena what Cena did to Rhodes and be like, show up in a suit and tie every week and be like, okay, you're right. After all these years, after I spent 25 years building up this character who hates Hollywood people, now I'm a Hollywood person. And then you have him turn on Cena in the triple threat match to become the champ. But here's the thing. That's more predictable than John Cena's heel turn.
Desperate people do desperate things, and he is desperate to be in the main event.
I understand and agree with you, but I think if you do that, there's one way to do it, which is Punk jumps in, he's wearing the suit and tie, he's the Hollywood guy and he gets himself in, and then he heel turns on Cena, or I guess face turns on Cena in the main event at WrestleMania, which, okay, I'm going to be honest, like kind of boring, or you assassinate a 25-year Hall of Famer's career without the drama of the way that you turn Cena at the last minute.
Okay, obviously, in case you haven't listened to me or the show or whatever show I'm on, I don't like CM Punk. So any assassination of character for me would be validation.
Not me.
So,
I gotta tell you,
so all those people said, "See, I told you Cena was that way." That's what the wrestlers are going to do. When CM Punk does this, no one's going to be surprised.
First off, CM Punk's not going to do that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Second off, when Punk left AEW, I beat him up as much as anybody else because I thought the whole way he exited was bull. And I agree with that. What I will say is, and maybe it's because his back's to the wall and there's nowhere else to go, WWE Punk is good right now.
You know what
He's good
WWE
right
Punk
now.
is? He's corporate Punk. He's done everything for the company. He's done everything the company way. I'm just saying. He's training people. He's been good in the back. He's done everything the way the company wants.
Yes, which is why the character of, I've done everything the right way. I've been here. I'm training. I'm trying to help the new people. And here comes Hollywood Dwayne and Hollywood John. And what do? They just take everything and help nothing. Therefore, bleep those guys. I'm going old school, Punk. That's the play. The problem with that is, I don't know. With Rock having all the power, Punk could go, make it a triple threat. And Dwayne goes, no.
All right.
That's the point of the character. No.
One last thing. Rhea drops the belt to Io Sky. Amazing. What a move. What a gutsy move by the WWE to put the wrestler who has no real move set aside and put someone who is a genius of the sky in there as the representative of the company. Here's the thing, though. It's already been rumored out there, and no surprise that it's going to be a triple threat. And somehow someone who calls some lady their mommy, she's going to work her way back into this. This lessens the main event of WrestleMania by letting her work her way in there. And so usually you bring in a third person because the main event itself is not strong enough to carry it. So who does it lessen? Does it lessen Io or does it lessen Bianca? And if you're trying to lessen Io, then why'd you let her win the belt?
Okay. This is one of those times where Alonzo says, this is my opinion, it is the only one. I'm about to drop a buddy on you. Buddy? Rhea Ripley's the most over women's wrestler in the game, with perhaps, maybe, and only the exception of Liv Morgan right now. You don't have to like that, but it is true.
There's an entire locker room of women better wrestlers.
That's your opinion.
Than Rhea.
It doesn't
Ripley.
matter. Lonzo, what
in NXT?
What?
In NXT?
What? Correct.
Julia's better.
Fine. Let's say that's true. Let's say that's true.
Sol Ruka's got the best finisher of all time.
Let's say that's true. How many of them are anywhere near over Rhea Ripley right now? How many? Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's 22 guys in the locker room that are better than Jey Uso. Doesn't matter. He's main eventing WrestleMania. Why? Because he is white hot right now.
Julia and Stephanie McCool are just as over and would be on the main roster.
They're not just as over.
By the way, Stephanie McCool chose to go to NXT. She could have been on the main roster.
And I respect the crap
but
out of
she
that.
wanted to learn how things are done before she moves up. And when she does, you'll forget about Rhea Ripley. I'll
never forget about mommy. Never forget. Lonzo says, "Oh, she's a crazy lady with tattoos." Boo. I say,
she can't wrestle, dude.
Mommy,
she can't.
She can.
She cannot wrestle.
Her and Io was a banger of a match.
Thanks to Io.
No.
Yes.
Thanks to two good women's wrestlers.
Thanks to Io.
Banger of a match. She's had a bunch of bangers of a matches over the time period. All right, we are moving ever closer to the showcase of the Immortals. So we'll continue wrestling talk as we move forward. Rob Alonso and you, The Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Fan Upstate. Zach, I actually believe that is going to be the case. I believe that is the story, which allows you to set up that match. See, that's the other thing is everybody said a triple threat, unless
Fatal 4-way.
There you go.
And you put the belt
on the line for everybody?
No, you put the belt on Jade Cargill.
You want to talk about a woman who can't wrestle yet? I think she's got it in there. Jade Cargill is not a carry the belt wrestler.
She couldn't win it on her own, but as far as visuals go and trying to sell things, she'd be right up there. Jade Cargill action figure, Rhea Ripley action figure. You're going to go with the Jade Cargill because an action figure should look like a superhero, and she looks like one in real life.
Rhea Ripley is my superhero.
Okay. If you hang out in biker bars and tattoo parlors.
I do. It's perfect.
You do not. You know what you do? You go home and
I go for crazy women and married a polite Southern Baptist lady.
Yeah, and you go home and put your jammies on and watch sports.
I do. I hosted the show in my jammies last night. It was great.
Jade can flex. You're right, James. She's not a really good wrestler, but she can be. The problem is, and the muscles may be getting in the way, and maybe she needs to train a little bit with like Scott Steiner to learn how to move with all that. Or maybe Jordan Grace shows her how to do it now that she's in the fold.
Can we talk about how
poor Cora? She just cannot stay healthy.
I feel awful for her because she to me is better than.
We can't talk about that, Steven. We can't talk about that. I have, but we can't talk about it.
Not yet. I will be watching episode 1 with the lady. I have to wait till Saturday because I'm working tonight and tomorrow on BetMGM tonight. And she said, because she loves Matt Murdock, she said, if you watch this without me, I will kill you. And I believe her.
I don't want you to die. I mean, you know.
So we will be watching Daredevil episode 1.
Good luck staying away from spoilers.
I know. I don't know when it's going to be, but there will be a point where I will have to shut Twitter down. I'm hoping it doesn't happen until tomorrow, and then I only have to go one day without the Twitter. But I don't know. We'll see. We have 331 folks on the stream. Shout out to the stream. What up? Welcome in. 331 of you. Glad
By the
to
way, I
have
just want
you.
to point
We do
out
this every weekday from 6 to 10 a.m.
Went up when we started talking wrestling.
Of course it did.
Yeah, I mean,
America loves professional wrestling.
You should look up John Cena bald. It's not a bad look. It's not a bad look. We already seen the back part of it.
I saw an account the other day that just does goofy AI images, and somebody did an AI.
No, Steven, stop it.
Him and Dwayne next to each other bald, and it was like, oh God. I also saw the same guy who did AI images of bearded wrestlers without beards, and it was terrible. It gave me nightmares. Braun Strowman without a beard is somebody who looks like he wouldn't be allowed within 500 yards of a school.
Wow. You know, I love Thursdays, but it just takes a lot out of you. There's just so much stuff, man.
There's so much stuff. Today especially, with
Yeah.
Lulu coming in.
Yeah.
Rashad was bringing fire today. Mario was finally almost decent.
Leave Mario alone. You're so mean.
Mario gets the little brother treatment. I have and will continue to always go to bat for Hatin Ass Mario, but it's earned by taking the crap. Come on, man.
Steven, Rob has 37 jobs. That's why we're always waiting on him. Whereas I just got this one, which entails a lot more than you guys know, especially drama.
Drama. Rob did watch Top Gun Maverick, Steven. Thank you very much for asking. As that I described it the day after I watched Top Gun Maverick, Star Wars with jets. And don't get me wrong, awesome. All in. It was great. Star Wars with jets.
Yeah, the same way I described it when we walked out of the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah. You got to fly up over this mountain and down through the trench. You got to go below the guns, and then you got to hit a bullseye on a womp rat. It's no more than 2 meters. I used to hit him with my T-67 all the time.
See, but what it was validation for Star Wars.
Oh, for sure. Well, listen.
Real world applications, and we saw it. And of course, everything was real.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Tom Cruise does all his own stunts. So, I mean, you know.
I will commend that crazy son of a gun for at least that. He's a lunatic, but I'm going to give him credit for that.
He's going to, his character's going to die this summer. I had to be
What, are we
careful.
doing another Top Gun?
No.
Oh.
The supposedly the final
Mission Impossible,
which is the second part. But it also has Haley Atwell.
Have you seen every Mission Impossible?
Yes.
I have not.
Only a couple in the theater, including the last one. But Haley Atwell was the reason why. I would have waited, but it's Haley Atwell. I'm going to go see her.
Fair enough. I'm all in for Haley Atwell for sure. I will probably
because she's an incredible actor.
I will probably at some point do a Mission Impossible catch-up marathon. Just one of those weekends.
Do you know how many of those there are?
Yeah, there's like 12 of them, right?
I think there's more of those than Fast and Furious.
I was going to say. I think I may one day have to be like, honey, we're staying home for a Sunday fun day. Draw the shades and turn the lights down low. Grab the DVR, turn on Mission Impossible, and let's just stay home and watch Tom Cruise jump off of C-130s and stuff for a few hours.
The thing is, if you fall asleep and you wake up and he's running, you fall asleep and you wake up and he's running.
Still be running?
Yeah, you fall asleep and you wake up and he's running because he does it in every one of those.
I need to catch up because it's not like
Oh, they're good movies,
It's not
too.
like I don't watch Mission Impossible because I didn't enjoy them. I think I bailed out at, what was it, Ghost Protocol? Was like 3 or 4 of them ago. And I think that's where and it wasn't even a bailout, like an intentional bailout. It was just a Mission Impossible, because it has been a franchise that's run so long, it always comes out in that like summer blockbuster window. And over the past 6 or 7 years, there's been a bunch of good movies that all come around it. And it's just kind of always been like, okay, this is like 4th on the priority list, so I'll get to it when I get to it, kind of thing.
I've been watching Mission Impossible since I was born. You do it used to be a TV series.
Yes, I'm aware of
Okay,
that.
all right. So
See, I've been watching Mission Impossible since I was born, but it was actually Tom Cruise.
there you go.
What it feels like, man. What it feels like. All right, what a good day we had today. Thanks again to Lulu Kesin for coming in studio to chat with us, talking SEC women's basketball tournament. That first game, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, gets tipped off here in 1 hour and 13 minutes live at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. That's going to be worth a watch, because the winner of that sporting contest will take on the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team tomorrow in round numero 3 of the SEC tournament, a berth to the semifinals on the line. We are awaiting, obviously, the other top 3 seeds. The winner of Tennessee Vandy will take on South Carolina. The winner of that will take on, likely, Kentucky out of the bottom half of the top bracket, down to the bottom half of the bracket. LSU and Texas will inevitably play each other in the semifinal, with a ticket to take on the winner of Kentucky, South Carolina, more than likely, in the championship game on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing that play out. Thanks to Rashad Beard for coming by at 8:40, host of the Panther Nation podcast. Make sure you're following them on YouTube. I am really excited about the next 3 or 4 weeks with Rashad, because now it stops being a conversation for casuals and we start diving deep into it, because we've talked about that 8 selection. We've talked about the guys that we think could kind of fall into that first round spot. Now we got to start talking about the guys that are in rounds 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. That's where you make or break. We have talked about this a lot of times. The Philadelphia Eagles have crushed the 5th, 6th, and 7th round games, and they have won a Super Bowl, defeated the Chiefs, been to 2 of the last 3 in the process. I think a lot of teams are going to start emulating that. And as I've said a couple of times on the show, I don't know that there's a team in the NFL more set up to emulate that than the Carolina Panthers moving forward. But we'll see what Morgan and Canales decide to do this year when we get there. Thanks to Hatin Ass Mario for joining us at 9 o'clock to talk some NFL. Zoe, I am going to say, after that conversation, I do not think Bosa's a fit. I think DK would be a fit for pretty much any team in the league. However, because of the value and because of the role I need him for, if one of those 3 guys ends up in Charlotte, Tyler Lockett's the pick.
Okay, who's older than Adam Thielen or them?
Tyler Lockett is, I believe, the same age as Adam Thielen.
Okay, so you got to have the same opinion, which is what Rashad was bringing up. You got to have the same opinion that you do of Adam Thielen.
No, I don't, because they play different positions.
Okay.
Adam Thielen is a... Let me be clear, because I feel like I keep having to correct this. My issue with Adam Thielen was not being on the team. My issue was having him as the wide receiver, the number 1 wide receiver. That would be like if you and I went and played basketball outside and I said, I'm the point guard. No, you're not. That's clearly not your position.
You absolutely would be the point guard, because I'm dominating the paint.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
I think we could take Diesel and Cole in basketball. I think I'm confident saying that.
Who's the ref? Because it's going to be a lot of fouls. There'd be a lot of fouls. Oh, I didn't see you there, Cole. I'm sorry.
Lonzo's going to foul out all charges.
So? All right, the first thing that's Xing is Joe Flacco.
I believe in Joe Flacco. Oh, that's a different guy. Joe Flacco is Xing because somebody somewhere is going to be very desperate to go find a second quarterback, and the quarterback market is about to take a big shot. We got an increase in the salary cap that almost always directly correlates to a big increase in the amount of money that quarterbacks are getting paid. That includes backup quarterbacks, and I think Joe Flacco is going to be in that role of, I'm just happy to be here. I don't know if that's why he's trending.
because Cleveland is taking a look at him. And here's the other thing. Cleveland just restructured Deshaun Watson's it just broke like a little bit ago, but we were in the middle of an interview, so I didn't want to do that.
Restructured it. They're only on the hook for what, $2 billion now?
I think they just saved themselves like $26 million or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
I mean, listen, this is one of those times I don't really go too deep into salary cap talk because the salary cap, it's not fake, it's real, but there's so many different ways to manipulate massage numbers to move stuff around. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't care enough to follow it. I will say this. The one place that my ears perk up when I start to listen to teams and the impacts of signings is when I start hearing dead money. Dead money is where you bump into a problem. And my assumption is if they are restructuring Deshaun Watson, they are adding a metric buttload of dead cap money down the line, which bails you out of trouble now, except for, and this is true, I've done the research, Lonzo, the Browns stink. Honestly, I say this sincerely, what's the point?
Well, you think you still got to try to win, I suppose. But with that and the new cap money, that's like 50-something million that they've got, right? So, I mean,
moving forward. But they are going to have to eat that dead cap hit down the line.
If they will let Myles Garrett move, they can get even more.
Again, still gonna be more. I listen. Cleveland's gonna be bad. I mean this. This is not like haha funny Rob on the way out the door. Cleveland's gonna be ass for the next 2 decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing it's Xing is WWE 2K 2025.
I gotta tell you, I haven't picked up a WWE 2K game since we got those copies in what, like 2022, 23?
I don't know. It's good to be in radio sometimes.
Yeah. We got a perk copy a couple of years ago that came through here from one of the local game shops, and I played the crap out of that game. I haven't purchased one since because I kind of put the WWE 2K games the same way I play Madden. I just I rotate years, right? I'll get them every couple of years, 2-3 years, because very rarely do they upgrade. But I've heard a lot of people saying the updates in this game kick ass, and on top of that, expanded rosters that will be adding DLC repeatedly.
That's the reason why. All right, the latest DLC will add New Jack and Abyss.
Saw that. New Jack's a wild character, man. Wild character. What is that, honestly, of the one, like Abyss, I see them adding out of TNA. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of TNA guys and gals that are going to show up in this, and I'm totally good with that. I think this collab, the NXTNA, is a great pick. It's a great move for both of them. New Jack, if you've ever heard the stories of him from back in the day, are terrifying. He was a terrifying human being. Not wrestler, terrifying person.
Yeah, there are quite a few wrestlers back in the day that are terrifying. Finally, the last thing that's Xing is Invincible.
Season 3 of Invincible. I'm assuming we're talking about the show.
Yeah, a new episode dropped today. So
see you guys later. I'm going home right now. I love that show. You know why I love that show? Because it's a superhero show, but it's done in what I think is a far more accurate representation of what this world would look like with superheroes in it. A lot of them would be real bad people, and they dive into that. They're still the heroes in the public eye, but they're real bad people, and I love it. It's great. Also, Adam Eve might be my favorite superhero in the game right now. Adam Eve's great.
I do like her.
Yeah, she's great. Hey, that's it for us. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back tomorrow. It's Friday. We're going to do it all over again. Hopefully, we'll find out much, much better. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again on The Rob Brown Show and The Fan Upstate. Later.
You're a winner, man. You're the real deal. You're picking up chicks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to leave the room immediately because it's 200 degrees and I wore a hoodie.
It's pretty warm in here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, usually the last couple of days it's cooled off during the duration of the show. Not today. Not today.
Well, and you were very active today.
Also that. Thank you guys for being here. For all of you that are maybe watching for the first time, have not joined us, come back. We do this 6 to 10 a.m. every single weekday. You can watch the stream wherever you are right now. Or if you got to go audio only, thefanupstate.com. Just push the Listen Live button or the Odyssey app, AUDACY, on your phone. We stream there. Search The Fan Upstate as well. I do hope that you will come back and be a part of this fun little bleep show that we've put together every single morning.
Crack us out, yo.
Crack us out, yo. You'll have a great day. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.